G'day, sports fans. Welcome to Roo Hammer, Season 2, Episode 51. Thank you to all you guys who are joining us across Facebook, YouTube, and podcasts and everything. Really appreciate your support. As always, thanks for joining us. A special shout out to our Patreon members as well. Your wonderful support makes it possible to bring you the show through this format, through Restream. And we always appreciate your support and contribution very much. Hammer, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Good evening. I just want to echo those thoughts, mate, those words in regards to our wonderful Patreon subscribers. Their support does allow us to do what we do here every week, which is try and bring the best Warriors-related content on all of social media platforms.
Absolutely.
But yeah, mate, I'm doing well. Just a big shout out to my housemate, the great Juan Carlos Contreras. He's in hospital at the moment. He's had a bit of some breathing trouble the other night and went to hospital yesterday, and they found that he's got some problems with his lungs and a bit of a weak heart. So he's having some more tests done, and he's in the best place possible if you're going to be crook, and that's at hospital. So thanks to all the doctors and nurses that are looking after him, but a massive shout out to him and thinking of your buddy, and looking forward to when you get home.
Yeah, mate. Thoughts and prayers to you as well. And you're a legend of a bloke, and speedy recovery.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely,
mate. Another one of those shows that we absolutely love, and that's chatting with one of our former legends.
Yeah, mate. It was a good get, this one. There's a lot. I mean, as we said last week, there's 265 people that have played for our club, and there's 263 that we would be able to get on here. Unfortunately, we have had two players from our club pass away, but this one was one that we kind of got reminded of in our chat with Brent Tate. And reached out to him, and he was keen to come on. So why don't you add him to the chat, mate? Tonight's guest played 3 seasons of the Warriors, including successful 2007 and 2008 seasons where the club returned to the finals. He's racked up 68 performances for the club, scoring 15 tries, playing in the halves. Please welcome Warrior 127, Grant Rovelli. Hey, Grant, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, good, boys. How are you?
Doing really well, thanks. Yeah, awesome. Thanks again. Thanks heaps for joining us. We always love to have a chat to our former legends, so it's our pleasure to have you on. We'll start with where we start with all of our guests, and we'll take you all the way back to the start. Can you tell us where you grew up and who was your junior club?
Yeah, I grew up in North Queensland on a cane farm in Walkerston. So brought up on a cane farm, the family cane farm, which we end up selling. So I grew up there and played for the Western Suburbs Tigers as a junior from under 8. So I wasn't allowed to play from under 7s because I was too small. Mum didn't let me until my younger brother was able to play. So that was a bit of a rocky start there. So yeah, I was kind of a little skinny kid, like really little and skinny. So probably one of those stories of don't tell too many people, but there you go, telling people now that Mum didn't let me play until my younger brother, who's a lot bigger than me, was able to play. So started at West, and then we moved off the farm and moved into town, into Mackay to go to school there, and I played at South Sharks for the remainder of my junior career, and then moved up to the Cowboys to Townsville, and then so the journey sort of began from there.
You came through that Cowboys system, and you end up getting recruited by the Sydney Roosters. How did that all come about?
Yeah, it was in the Cowboys system at that time. There was a lot of us North Queensland kids that was sort of coming through. We went through the old Incitec pivot sort of program. It was really popular back in the day. We spent a whole heap of time on buses on the way from Mackay to Townsville, and it was a really good program and developed a lot of really good kids through that time. There was a classic game on the other day that one of the boys sent me a message on from the Cowboys who were playing Queensland Cup, and there was 9 of us that were under under 19 that were playing against the North Devils, and we ended up winning that game. So yeah, really good program back in those days with the Cowboys. A lot of us were sort of coming through from Mackay, Townsville, and Cairns during that period. And at school, I was actually approached by the Roosters to go down there, and also the Melbourne Storm and the Cowboys. So that was sort of the top three for me. And I was from North Queensland, a devout Cowboys fan at that stage. Being from Mackay, the Cowboys were up the road, so I actually chose to go to the Cowboys over the Melbourne Storm and the Roosters at that time, but had some really strong stayed in touch with Arthur Beats and Artie, and my old man become really good mates, and we had a good relationship there. And I went down to the Roosters and met all the staff at that time, Graham Murray and all those types of people. So I was lucky enough to play grade football or reserve grade football at a young age at 17 at the Cowboys. And for whatever reason, I think at that time, there was a number of us younger guys that they were talking about not re-signing, and I was one of them. And they offered me a deal to stay, but the Roosters were always really close, and I guess they were at me that entire time to come down there. And I was probably a little bit more mature at that stage. So I was 18 and turning 19, I think 18 and turning 19. It just made sense for me to go down to the Roosters, and it was a great decision in the end.
Yeah, mate. Well, moving from laid-back North Queensland to the hustle and bustle of Sydney, what were your first impressions of becoming a new Sydney resident?
Oh, boys, they thought I was talking this other language.
You're drawing it out too much.
I don't know. Like, I think I've maybe lost the North Queensland drawl a touch, but yeah, back in those days, they thought I was from another country, really. So, you have the conversation, where are you from, Mackay? Oh, yeah, that's near Brisbane. No, mate, that's 10 hours. 10 hours from Brisbane, 10 hours north from Brisbane. Oh, yeah, right. How big is the country that we live in? Like, these are people that are from New South Wales. It probably explains a couple of things, Hammer,
I think so, mate.
But yeah, that's what it was like. It was it was a steep learning curve from a young kid from North Queensland. I think I'd been to Sydney twice. I went for an under-16s grand final tour, and the other time was to go down and visit the Roosters and the club when I was in year 12. So yeah, I was pretty green at that stage. And the other interesting part was the Roosters just won the premiership versus the Warriors actually in that 2002 grand final. I was literally there 4 weeks afterwards, and the boys were still in party mode, heavy party mode. Shannon Haggerty, good bloke from Mackay, went to school where I went to school with, a couple of years older than me, but he was charged with, I guess, looking after the young kid from the north, and pretty much picked me up from Owen Cunningham's house. Owen's a family friend of ours. He played at Manly for years, so I was sort of crashed over there when I first arrived, and Hags picked me up, and I jumped in the car, and I think he might have been playing Origin that year or something. Though they just won the grand final. He's like, "Righto, mate, your shout for a carton." And I'm thinking, here's this bloke that's playing first grade, just won the comp, and he's getting me to shout him a carton. What's going on here?
Welcome to Sydney.
Yeah, welcome to Sydney. And yeah, the first couple of weeks, it was baptism of fire to be able to keep up with them blokes. They were still partying from the grand final, and I was just a young kid from there, like I said, North Queensland. It was an eye-opener, let's just say that.
Still painful memories for us, though. 2002. At the time of your recruitment, though, the Roosters are one of the success stories. Grand final appearances they played in 2000 and as you said, 2002. But it must have been exciting for you to end up at the club at that time of success. Yeah, it was. It was. So they went 2002, 2003, 2004. Grand finals. Yeah. We went 2005 grand finals. Yeah. So I played in the reserve grade grand final in 2004 and 2005. The NRL team didn't make it in 2005, but yeah, like you say, really solid period of success. And geez, there were some great players at the club, and Ricky Stewart was a great coach. Ricky Stewart was exceptional for me. He probably transformed me into an actual halfback. I had some raw talent. I worked my ass off, but I didn't. There's a difference between
when you're coming through as a young kid and then actually getting in a team, in a reserve grade team as an 18-year-old, and trying to tell blokes that play first grade that drop down how, what they've got to do. That's a really big step up. And if I didn't have the mentoring and coaching of a Ricky Stewart, I don't think I would have progressed in my career. That's the honest truth. Ricky was great for me and really hands-on. So Ivan Cleary was our coach. So Ivan came over directly after losing the comp, straight into coaching the reserve grade team, which I was a part of, and Ivan was great as well. But in terms of that real halfback mentoring and coaching and on the job, Ricky was really hands-on with a lot of the young kids at the club at the time. I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah, it must make it, an actual halfback coaching you as a halfback must make it a lot easier, I guess.
What a mentor.
And he was one of the best, Ricky, he played, I'm pretty sure he played for the Wallabies too, didn't he? Wallabies, Kangaroos. Yeah,
it was a great time. It's one of them. So people ask me about what it was like, the culture of the club, and it was just like being back home in Mackay, just at the senior club. Like, the NRL players are really engaged with all the younger grades. We hung out together, we trained together as much as possible. Yeah, there was full-time players in that as well, but Ricky really tried to create that club feel, and honestly, it did feel like I was back home in Mackay. He made all the NRL players come and watch the SG ball and the Jersey flag, and then the reserve grade, because back in those days we played all at the same time. And so it was just a really good club feel. And it was no secret to the success around the culture of the club at that time. Ricky put a lot of time into it.
Yeah, mate. 2003, you're playing New South Wales Premier League, as it was called back then, with the Roosters. And at the end of that year, you get selected at halfback for Italy in a test against Greece. That must have been a proud moment representing that side of your culture and heritage.
Yeah, absolutely, Hammer. That was it was one of those things, probably wasn't planned or wasn't thinking about that at the time, but they'd put a lot of effort in. Dave Riolo and a couple of the guys had put a lot of effort in previous years to that, trying to get a squad together and trying to build the Italian Rugby League up from a local perspective over there, and also from Sydney. And lucky for me, I was in Sydney at that time, and there was a couple of guys at the Roosters that qualified and had the heritage, and it was a great honour. I got to play with Greg Florimo. He's an absolute legend of the game. Yeah. I think, him and I sort of lined up in the halves, or he might have been locker or something for the game. And, that was a highlight as well. And there were some really good players. Paul Desault from North Queensland was our hooker and captain. And Georgie Gaddis is a great mate of mine still now, former Warrior. He was on the Greece side, and we ended up winning 24-22. So I still remind him of that to this day, which he's not really that happy about. But yeah, from a family perspective, it means a lot. Still means a lot right now. It means a lot for my grandfather, and it means a lot for my family back in Italy. When I got married in Mackay, my family came over from Italy, and nice. For me at the time, it wasn't that big of a deal in terms of the family thing, because you're young and these things are coming up, and you sort of take it for granted, to be completely honest. But upon reflecting, and when you get a bit older, you really do appreciate those opportunities, and it does mean a lot to, certainly for me and the rest of my family as well.
There's a strong Italian contingent in North Queensland, isn't there? Like a strong Italian community. Like you got Marty Bella,
farmers, mate.
Yeah. Marty Bella and Aidan Guerra, some of the Queenslanders, North Queenslanders.
Yeah.
And play Origin.
Yeah. It's well, a lot of the families came over and started farms, and my family in Walkerston built the local church there, and my grandfather came over as an 8-year-old on a boat, and the family back there sort of tell the story that they call him Elio, that one day he's sitting there in the family village, and the next 7 months later they get a letter from him to say he's arrived. And if you think about that in the context of how we live now and the communication that we've got, the streams, like, you just can't fathom that, right? Like, it's such a one of your family members is gone, and then 7 months later you get a letter to if they're okay that they got there, and you don't actually know how that went, and they're on a boat for that period of time. It's just thinking about that now, my kids would just be like, what, that doesn't happen. What's this?
No. Wow. Mate, I was going to say, when you brought him up before, you got to play that test match with a very good friend of mine who is Greg Florimo. I know the Florimo family quite well. His big game maturity would have helped you out to win that day, I reckon. Yeah, Kangaroo, State of Origin player, legend of North Sydney.
He's an absolute legend. Yeah, it was just a great experience. And yeah, like you say, that's how you learn off them older blokes. And probably one of the things that, the guys like me talk about now around the reserve grade competitions and those rep teams that you get to play in, that the young guys don't necessarily have that exposure to those people. Like you pick little intricacies up from every of those legends that you played with along the period of time and try and build that into your game. And yeah, someone like Greg Florimo, to see him in action is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, mate. 2004 and 2005, you continue your footy with the Roosters in the New South Wales Premier League, and you're playing back-to-back grand finals, winning the 2004 grand final against the Dragons 30 points to 8. What are your memories of that game?
Oh, that was a great year. 2004 was an amazing year. From memory, we lost the first 3 games. Ivan was our coach. I was captain. 20. I was 20, captain of that reserve grade team, which is a huge honour of a club like that at the Roosters and really strong at the time. So one of the career highlights for me for sure. I think we lost the first 3 games, and I think the third game we got flogged by. We actually got pumped by St. George. I think it was like 50-0 or something. And I remember Ivan was probably reflecting, thinking this is probably going to be the end of my coaching career. At the time, it was like crisis meetings, like this is what happens. It's like it's a big deal, and especially at the Roosters at the time. The NRL team were on fire. The other team were on fire as well, and we were in the middle, and we were spastic. So we had to go back to the drawing board. I remember it was really crisis meeting sort of levels, and we had a great team. We had some awesome players. Georgie Rose was one of the front rowers. David Shillington, a lot of rep players in there. Luke Dawn was my halves partner, and really good players in that team. Gavin Lester, Sia Soloiolo, all these blokes in that side, and we just went back to basics really and started having a good time and training really hard. And we won 18 games in a row from there. We got beaten by Newtown a week before the finals and finished on top of the table. And then we pretty much wiped the floor with all the opposition through the finals series. And we met St. George again, which was kind of our nemesis from the start of the year. And we're just on fire. I think Dawny was on fire. Semi Perrott played in that game as well. Sia was only. He must have been only 17, turning 18, Sia, at that time, and he was just a freak. It feels like he didn't get bigger as he went through his career. It felt like he was the same size as what he is now, as what he was back then, and he was just killing people. So, we had a great team.
He
was playing centre. Yeah. On the left side with me was Sia was the centre, and Gavin Lester, bit of a Bulldogs legend, was the winger. He was great for Sia and teaching him his craft, and just a really good mentor. Toddy Byrne was on the other wing, former Warrior player as well.
Steady Byrne,
Pete Cusack was one of the front rowers. So there's a lot of big name players. Benny Hennett was there as well, and so we had an awesome team, really, really good young team, and a lot of blokes from that team have gone on to play, for Australia and Queensland, and a lot of NRL players as well. So, we were pretty red hot that day.
Well, 2005, you make the grand final again. Unfortunately, beaten 31-12 by Parramatta.
By Jared Hayne.
The Hayne
was
plane.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he scored 4 tries that day.
Yeah, right. That must have been the year before he broke into first grade.
Yeah, 2006 was the year he got Rook of the Year. And,
that's right,
05. 05's a little bit different because 04 we weren't really expecting to be that good, whereas 05 there was probably a different expectation. We were still pretty young and pretty cocky at that stage as well, I reckon. Shane Flanagan was our coach, so Ivan had moved on to the Warriors at that stage, so he was assistant coach then. And again, we only lost 2 games all year, and we had a really good side. We pumped everyone through the final series again. And I remember that game because before the game in the sheds, really good learning curve for a young person, and you sort of that overconfidence. And I just remember thinking in the sheds that we're not going to get beaten, and we're probably, really loud. And some of those signs, if you think about that net now, is immaturity and probably a little bit of fear in some of the people as well. So it was a really good learning curve because we went out in the field, and like I said, Jared Hayne was on fire. He played on the left wing, and I think he scored 4 tries over our winger. And yeah, just tore us apart. We were never in the contest. Jamie Soward and myself were the halves in that game, and again we had a great side, really good team. Heath Lestrange was a hooker, and yeah, good forward pack. Stewie Webb was in that team as well. Benny Hennett, and yeah, really good team. There was a number of us that were actually leaving the club after that year, so it was one of them things where you sort of look back and regret, and would have been a good opportunity to be able to win 2 grand finals in a row, but. Again, really good learning experience for me. Certainly, after that time in big games and how to approach them around, proper preparation. Because bit of a funny story for the preparation in this game. We had a really good close group of core group of friends in that team, and I don't know, for some reason we went out for dinner on must have been the Wednesday night. Went out for dinner. I think we went and watched a movie. It was me, Jamie Soward, Heath Lestrange, a couple of other boys. I can't remember. It was about 5 of us, I think. And David Shillington had a house just in the back of Randwick there, and we knew he was it's a reasonable sized house, and he was renting it, and he lived with the guy that he went to school with from Brizzy. So we went around there, had this great idea that we'd pretend to break into his house. We did the whole balaclava thing, like you put the shirts around your face and you can't see anything. And it's unusual because most of the boys lived in apartments. And so, Shillo lived in this house, and we just come up with this idea and thought, this is going to be great. This will be fun. So we proceeded to try and break into his house. I think Strangey ran around the back, and we were doing a pretty good job of it because it would have been at 10:30 at night. And, Shillo's 115, probably 120 kilos at the stage. He's a big guy, he's a big dude. So we're expecting Shillo to come out the front and approach these thieves. He sends his roommate, who's 5'2", 65 kilos, and he's pushing him. He's pushing him out the front door. Trindle, go and sort him out. I'll call the police. So we've seen this, and we're just pissing ourselves. And anyway, we kept going, and we probably took it a bit far because by the end, Big Shillo come out with his shirt off and with the golf club, and that was kind of okay. Let's take the masks off. So that's probably not ideal preparation for a grand final week, and how we actually our mindset approaching the game. So, but yeah, it was a good time. We got up to a few shenanigans like that, all in the right spirit. But yeah, we had a good group of blokes. That's for sure.
Nat Wood wasn't at the Roosters at that stage, was he? He wasn't there?
Nah, I've heard about them stories,
Yeah, we were just going to say, it's not the first time we've heard stories like
that. Yeah.
My God. Mate, you mentioned it before that a couple of guys were leaving the club at the end of that 2005 season. You end up going over to the Warriors for the 2006 season. Ivan Cleary's named as head coach. Was that the reason you went there, and how early during that 2005 season had you committed to leaving the Roosters and heading to New Zealand?
Yeah, I've always had really strong relationships with my coaches and mentors over my career, which has been great. I've had a lot of really good coaches. I mentioned Ricky Stewart there before, and yep. Ivan and I kind of hit it off. He put a lot of faith in me as a young kid from North Queensland to come down and captain the team. And as I said before, it was a huge honour, and we had some great players in that. So, naturally out of that, you strike up a relationship with your coach as a coach and captain. So we stayed in contact when he went over to the Warriors, and it was pretty early, sort of mid-season. Roosters were making a decision to keep either myself or Jamie Soward, and the Warriors were pretty proactive in their approach. So it wasn't really a decision for me at all. I knew Kevin Campion that was there at the time, so him and Ivan were in regular contact. I was going to the games, and it was kind of just a natural progression for me, really. I got to meet Kempy, and I got to meet a couple of the boys. Nathan Fiend was there at the time, and I knew Feeney from the Cowboys as well, and Skinny Byrne had gone there. So there was some relationships that were already there that I felt comfortable with, and I knew that Michael Luck was going over there at the same time, and then Georgie Gaddis came, and so we all knew each other from North Queensland. So it just was the right fit for me. So yeah, midway through the year, I sort of made that decision, and I really enjoyed the back end of the year, but off the back of knowing where I was sort of headed next year, and pretty confident that I'd get an opportunity.
You relocating to New Zealand, do you remember what your first impressions of not so much the club, but just of Auckland itself was, particularly coming from a North Queensland background?
It felt like a mini version of Sydney. And by that stage, I probably had enough of Sydney. It was a good time, but I took my footy really seriously and committed. But there was an element of life at the Roosters where you play a lot of Friday night games, and there's long weekends involved in that as well. So I was ready to make that change, and so it felt like it just was a mini version of Sydney. Really, that was my first impression. But when you get into the club and you meet the players and you get an understanding of the culture of the country, and also how deeply the players care about their culture, and how much they look after people that come from another country or come from somewhere else to their town. There's nothing like a one-team town, and New Zealand and Auckland were like that. It was a really tight group of fellas, and off the back of that, I absolutely loved my time there.
Yeah, well, the Warriors organisation, I mean, we'd had some success in 2001, 02 and 03 playing finals footy, but in 2004 and 5, we'd finished 14th and 11th. What was your first impressions of the club when you got there?
It was very much there was a Roosters feel to it, and a Cowboys feel, because Campo was there and Ivan were there, and there was a couple other people. Craig Walker came over as well from the Roosters at that time, so there was a fair bit of there was familiarity for me around that, and how we approached training was very similar. We worked our absolute arse off. It was very professional. The facilities were really good there at Mount Smart. The gym underneath the stadium there was great. The Mount Smart field itself was really good. So, I just felt like it was a professional organisation, and what I did feel like is that we were going to be working our asses off and working hard that preseason, and I was absolutely correct, because it was one of the tougher ones. There's not many easy ones, but we certainly, I probably get a little bit annoyed, and still to this day, when the commentators sort of talk about the fitness of the Warriors teams, and that was something that we really used to get pissed off at, and certainly for me, from a playing perspective during that time, because I know what it was like at the Roosters, and I know what it was like at the Cowboys under Billy Johnson, and we trained just as hard, no doubt about it. And some of the scores I sort of tell people now around the beep test of some of the guys, like Ivan Tumavavi getting a 14 on a beep test, like people can't, they don't think that's actually true. Well, it is. There was some expectations of where we had to get to from a halves perspective and front rowers. But when you got people like Ivan getting 14 and Simon Mannering getting like 15 and a half, 16, it's just that argument around, the Warriors not being fit and not training. It just doesn't stand up.
It's just one of many myths associated with our club. Many myths.
We've had to deal with that garbage from Australian media since '95, mate. And living in Australia and hearing it all the time, it really annoys you, because there is we sense there is a kind of bias in the way that they do talk about the Warriors and that level of fitness or lack thereof, because it's the same argument every year. You hear it every year. we used to hear it from commentators back in the 90s, and we're still hearing it from, guys like Anasta and that now on Fox Sports, that the Warriors just aren't fit. But it's just,
big forward pack, only play for 60 minutes, all that kind of stuff.
It's a sore point with us too, bro.
No. But in terms of first impressions, it felt like it was a very professional organisation, led by Ivan at that time, and the owners were pretty involved as well, and they were around the club. So first impressions were really good. I was there as someone someone to take an opportunity, really. So my expectations were to go there and work my ass off and see if I could get a chance, and that was basically it.
Well, you did get a chance, mate. After a pretty solid preseason, you find yourself named for the Warriors 2006 season opener against Melbourne at Mount Smart. What do you remember about that being named in that squad leading up to the game? Those feelings, knowing that this was it, you're going to make your NRL career debut.
I'll tell you what I remember. I remember 2 days before the game, Ruben Wiki absolutely belting me under my ribs and breaking 2 of my top ribs before my debut.
That's the preparation.
Rubes is an absolute, he's a legend. One of the best, one of the absolute greats. He trained as hard as what he played. Every session, every single session, without fail.
Yeah.
So if he couldn't go 100%, then he didn't miss too many training sessions, mate. He was full ball all the time. There was a lot of the boys like that, and that was probably one of the features of how we trained as well. Like it was physical, in our inter-club games, opposed. We used to call them opposed sessions. It was like bloody State of Origin. And I was thinking, holy shit! Like what? Like this is crazy. That was one of the things that if you think about, one of the first things I recognised is that how hard the boys trained, how hard they ran at each other, how hard they belted each other, and Rubes was at the forefront of that.
Yeah.
This is a bloke that's probably played 220 games by this stage and at the back end of his career, and he was going as hard as anyone else. So that was a feature of my debut week, and there was no way I wasn't playing. So I got needled up for the first, I think, 18 games of my career. So that season,
wow,
in the couple of ribs, either side of the couple of ribs up here. Outside of that, it was just a really special sort of moment, really culmination of a shitload of hard work and dedication and sacrifice, and sacrifice of a lot of people in and around, me and my family, and what they've done for me to be able to get there, and just really proud moment. It was, it's probably cliche. A lot of blokes say, "I just wanted to play one game." Well, I just wanted to play one game. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do was play one game, and I was lucky enough to do that at the Warriors in front of a Mount Smart crowd who are really passionate and loud, and I just remember that and how passionate and loud they were. I was really surprised by that because I'd never been there before for a home game.
Yeah.
And our trial games were, I think we played at North Harbour and then Gold Coast, so we didn't actually have any real big trials at Mount Smart. So that one of the real special moments is running out of that tunnel. That's one thing that you miss. It's unreal, back in Black's pumping. Love that.
We're getting goosebumps.
That debut game though. What are your memories of that game? Sitting on the bench and the anticipation of watching the early exchanges, and you sort of itching for your turn to get out there.
Oh, I remember bloody Greg Inglis running around Mardo, put the palm on him at a scrum, ran around him too fast, and I knew GI. Well, obviously knew GI as he was playing junior grades at North Devils in the Q Cup, and I had a keen eye on that, and he was an absolute freak. So, he was a gun then. So run around Mardo, and we started okay. Melbourne were obviously a good side. I remember just being on the bench. The only time I ever played off the bench was when playing first grade when I first started. Outside of that, I've always started in the halves or, as a junior. So that was really tough. Like in the trials, I come off the bench and was playing hooker and played pretty well. And I don't think the coaching staff were really expecting that to work, but there might have been an injury. So I just got an opportunity off the bench and played hooker, and it kind of worked. I just had freedom. So I used to just get on the field and run the ball, and it worked. And so I had a bit of practice in the preseason games, and you just spend a lot of energy. I just remember spending a lot of energy on the sideline because I'm not used to it. I don't know how to approach that. So, and there wasn't a lot of clear instruction of when you're going to go on. Like you're in that utility spot. It's like you could go on after 2 minutes, or you could go on with 90 seconds to go.
Yeah.
So you've just got to be ready. And in that, as a young bloke, and in your debut game, you're eating up a lot of energy. Just thinking about what I'm going to do, and in the middle of the field as well, because I'm not used to that. Wasn't used to that sort of in the middle of the field and constant in the middle of the field. And so one of the trial games, I got out there a little bit earlier, and it's around that 25-minute mark, and that's that 25-minute mark in the middle of the field. Like when you've got 25 to go to half time, you're getting sort of 10 minutes to go to half time, and you're completely wrecked. Like your lungs are busted, and big boys run at you all day. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to hiding out, out near the sideline, sort of not doing anything. Whereas a bit different in the middle. So I'm sort of thinking that on the sideline, going, oh shit, I hope I don't get out there too early because I'm going to tank. And what can I do? It's a Melbourne Storm, and you get out there, and you get given the card, and that sort of it just all goes away, and the crowd noise goes away, and it's just you're on. And I just remember getting out there straight away and running out of dummy half, and put a nice big step on, and that felt great. So I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. I think I set up a try, or something happened really quickly. It might have been someone on the post, I can't quite remember, but there's a couple of good things happening. I was thinking, oh wow, this is like, I've built this up to be really hard, but it's quite easy. And then when we had possession, it was easy, but when we were defending for periods of time, that wasn't easy at all.
No.
So I think they might have just got us, but when you're in that game, the result doesn't matter. You're sort of just on cloud nine, really. And so mum and dad came over, and that was really special. And you get a lot of support from family and friends. And Costo was calling the game at the time, and the Warriors, and Costo's from Mackay, so he always used to
from the tropics.
Either really pump me up or bag me. So, but that's okay. He's a good man.
Yeah. He follows the page too, so he'll hear that.
Yeah, he'll definitely hear that. Yeah. 22-16 was it? For the record. Yeah, Melbourne just got us that day. But you mentioned the crowd before, so 10,000 Warriors fans on a Sunday arvo. When we were chatting to Tatey a couple of weeks ago, he was saying that 8,000 fans at Mount Smart sounds like 52,000 fans at Suncorp. Was that your experience of playing home games?
Yeah, it's they're just so loud. It's really weird. Like the couple of blackout games we had there for semis were just an amazing experience. But yeah, I reckon Tatey's right. I reckon for Arwen's testimonial game, the weather was like awful. Yeah. I think there was 6,000 people there. But I just remember thinking, like, it feels like there's 15, 20 in here. Like, they're so loud and very passionate. We beat the Sharks, I think 4-2 that game or whatever it was. But yeah, I agree with Tatey. They're very passionate. They turn up regardless of the weather, rain, hail, or shine. And go back to that running out of the tunnel and the drums, and you see the crowd, on that stand as you go out. It's a really good feeling. I used to love that. Absolutely love it. The other thing about the home ground was we used to, talk about the weather, because a lot of the Aussie boys, we knew the attitude of the visiting teams, right? They used to come over and stay and then just go straight home, and
hated it.
Saturday night at home. We used to love Saturday night at home. We were so confident. It was either going to be wet or cold or both of the above. And we used to have this thing called our weather. So, when you rolled in there, if we were in camp or whatever, and we rolled in there and it was a drizzling night game and it was rainy, we were like, yes, we're on here. We're on. And had people like Ruben and Arwen and, these guys licking their lips going, bring it on, boys. So, yeah, it was awesome.
Lucky said when we chatted to him that his happy place is in the middle of Mount Smart Stadium when it's bucketing down with rain.
Yeah, cold and wet.
Cold and wet
So
day at Mount Smart. Yeah.
That's it. There you go.
Mate, the first two games for the Warriors were losses, but you get your first NRL win in the round 3 victory against the Tigers. Do you remember that game? Describe your feelings about getting your first NRL win, and do you remember singing the team song after that game?
Yeah, the team song's great. Team song is awesome. I don't actually. It's funny. We used to have this big rivalry with the Tigers. We hated them.
Yeah.
We used
Well,
to.
the premiers, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember why. I think there was some. Might have been something that Robbie Farrell. Generally not very popular within our playing group potentially, and there was a bit of chat in a couple of the games, and I think that just sort of grew, and so we used to love playing the Tigers, and we had a really good record against them as well. And yeah, we had a couple of really good wins, and I remember playing well against the Tigers, so I used to always enjoy coming up against them. But I don't remember that game specifically, actually, to be completely honest.
Pretty sure it was at Christchurch. Yeah,
it was.
Oh yeah,
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 the
right.
old stadium there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't know. I don't really remember it that well, to be completely honest. So I know it was freezing cold. And I think I only got on in the second half. I think Webby had a blind of that game as well. Now I think about it.
A great season that year.
Yeah, Webby's. Yeah, he was unreal. Webby. He's really interesting as a fullback. Think about players sledging. It's normally the halves and the hookers and people that are close to the action. But Webby was the worst. Really? He was doing it from fullback. You just hear him from the back, just giving it to blokes, and he's like 20 meters away,
just chirping away at the back.
Just chirping, and there was like on the run commentary and giving it to the referee at the same time. And he was a good man, Webby, and a very good player as well during those times.
Oh, absolutely, another great North Queenslander.
Yeah.
We ask all our guests this question, but do you remember your first NRL try?
Yeah. Newcastle.
Exactly right. You got it. Round 4 in a 26-22 win against Newcastle. What do you remember about the try?
I think Feeney went through and I supported. It's one of them, that was one thing that I always used to, probably not known for, but something that I worked hard on was around my support play. And, when someone takes off and you see that opening and it's kind of the fullback and then you've just got fresh air. It's good. I just remember, getting the pass off Feeney, and it's again one of those moments where you're sort of reflecting, going, "How good's this?" It was probably more special because at Newcastle I had a couple of shockers in reserve grade at the Cowboys there. I remember one day I was only 17. I was playing fullback. I would have been like 70 kilos. They put up this bomb, and I was in the middle of the field. And these are back in the days when it was packed, like 2002, full for reserve grade. Like 25,000, whatever it's there, and they've put up this bomb, and I'm underneath it, like this young kid. They would have been thinking, "What are you doing here? You should be in grade 5." And in the middle of the field, and I'm saying mine, and we had these two big unit wingers, Nappy Coruscant, and I forget the other dude's name at the Cowboys, and Simon Nikesi, and so I did mine, and they've just literally come in together at the same time and just crushed me, like completely crushed me, and I'm just on the ground. The ball's bounced up in the air. Newcastle had come through and scored, and that crowd just gives it to you. And I had a couple of moments like that just as a young kid playing reserve grade. So it was one of them grounds where I was like, far out, Newcastle, you're going to go there. The sheds are... The Johns boys did this, and they continued the tradition. They used to put the hoses in the sheds, and it was freezing cold. Like, it was wet and cold. It was a shit show. So to go there and score my first try, it was a bit of one of those things. It's like, oh yeah, this is great. Stick it up and type thing. And we played well, and we had a really good win. So that was one of the... I'll never forget that one. That was a really good game.
Mate, the first 5 games of that season, you came off the bench, but round 6, you finally get your first run on at 5'8" against Canberra at Bruce Stadium, with the world's biggest 5-outs, Sione Faumuina, moving back to the bench. That must have felt pretty good, to get named in the run-on side and secure that spot in the team.
Yeah, it was. It was really I wasn't expecting that at all. I actually thought that, I was going to be either on the bench or just filling in spots, really. That's the way I trained, and I wasn't expecting any of that stuff. And I think, there was some good performances off the bench, and some people weren't performing as well. I don't think that combination with Sione and Feeney was necessarily working. So it was a good opportunity for me, and it was a great experience. And again, it's one of them things where it's just really special moment, and you sort of don't think about it until after the game of the gravity of it. But really great experience. And I think again, I don't know if we won. I feel like we didn't win that game. Was that the game where
I think Alan Tongue scored a try in the dying minutes. It was off like a rebound kick. It was one of those really annoying ones. Yeah.
We were in front, and Skinny Byrne took an intercept, and he got ran down. He was on a treadmill. I still remember that.
Not Skinny Byrne. No.
Surely not Skinny Byrne.
Skin Dog got run down because I don't think we'd won there in forever, and we were up.
Oh yeah, no. Terrible record there.
For us. Yeah, we were up, and we were going good. I think we were in front most of the game actually. Now that you say that,
yeah,
and Skinny took this intercept, and I was thinking, oh yes, you beauty, we're home. And Craig Frawley was like in behind him, and Skinny just hit the treadmill, and there was quicksand, and he was getting dragged down. It was literally like 5 meters out, and it was like someone just got a chainsaw and just cut his legs off. He was done.
It was 5 meters out and got tackled 15 meters.
There was a couple of snipers in the crowd, and he went down. So Skin Dog and Tungy did the show and go over under the post. I remember it now. Yeah. But from my perspective, it was pretty cool experience. But I just thought that I'd probably go back to the bench after that.
Yeah, well,
that was the thinking for me.
Yeah, well, no.
Well, actually, round 10, Ivan decides to switch it up a little bit, and you're named at halfback with Feeney moving to hooker, and Jerome Rapati partners you in the halves. Did you enjoy the opportunity to direct the team around on the park?
Yeah, I did. It was actually a really good combination with Feeney and I. That I guess that was probably the combination for the remainder of the year or thereabouts. And we'd done a fair bit of training in the preseason. As you do, I was the reserve half and jump in, and Feens would go in there, and felt really comfortable with that. I knew Feeney from the Cowboys. I'd known him since I was sort of 16 type stuff. Coming through the ranks, and he was one of the senior guys, and he really looked after me, Feeney, as well. He probably taught me one of the things about coming through the NRL and really good mateship and a good team man. Essentially, I took his position, right? And Feeney wanted to play halfback, and that was his preferred position. And he mentored me and looked after me and really helped me out that first season. He was excellent. He was really good. I don't think I would have played as well if I didn't have someone like him there, being able to help me and for us to be able to have that connection.
Well, Ivan, sticks with the halves combo, of yourself and Jerome for the remainder of the season. Jerome Rapati, and you played 16 games together. You won 9 of them. So having the trust of your coach to do the job required must have felt really good.
Yeah, it was good. I guess I probably had built that relationship and trust with Ivan before that time. So that really helped me. It just felt like it was back at the Roosters, and this is my job, and he knew my strengths, and he didn't ask me to do anything outside of that. And the guys gave me a lot of support in being able to run the team around, which I just felt comfortable with. And it was a good combination with Jerome as well, because he was a really strong ball runner. So it was my job to direct the team around with Feeney's assistance, and then give the ball to the big guys and Jerome in space, and that was kind of it. Probably a feature of certainly my personal game that year was around my kicking game, and we had a lot of success with Big Manu on the wing, so I just used to just put it over there for him, and he'd just catch it and put it down. That was pretty easy.
Mate, round 14, you came up against your old club in the Roosters. Tell us what that's like. Was there some different feelings when you approached that game, especially coming up against old mates?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of them things you mark in the calendar, particularly. I guess you sort of have this. Really, they chose someone else over me. It worked out for me in the end, regardless. But you sort of have that in the back of your mind. To be completely honest, blokes sort of go, "Oh no, not really." But yeah, in the back of your mind, it definitely plays. And Finchy was a halfback, and he was in front of me, and I respected him, and he was really good for me in my career. And so you just want to make a good account of yourself against those guys, and I'm pretty sure we didn't we? Did we go all right that game? I can't quite remember.
Rob was every game. Who scored try? He remembers. He's a freak. Did we
win
that game?
Yeah, mate, we won that game 22-12, and then we also we smashed them at the end of the year as well. Jerome got 4 tries. Yeah.
There you go. My memory was nearly right, but yeah, I remember it was a good game, and so yeah, absolutely wanted to play a good game against them. First game back. I think Shiloh was there because David Chillings and I lived together in Sydney, and he was kept hitting me off the ball. Every time I kicked it, he was hitting me off the ball, and every time I'd run down, he'd try and run me off, and elbows, and so it was a bit of fun. It's good to play against mates, and at the same time as beating them. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. We finished the 2006 season in 10th. Only missing out because of those 4 competition points that we were deducted at the start of the year. So ordinarily we would have finished in the top 8. But for you personally, it was a successful first season in the NRL, and you're nominated for Dally M Rookie of the Year, and you take out the Warriors Young Player of the Year award. So you must look back on that first season with a lot of pride.
Yeah, absolutely. The last game of the year was a great experience. It was Shane Webke's last Broncos home game.
Yeah, I was at that game, yeah.
Mate, that was phenomenal. Again, that's one of the ones that you never forget. I remember running out. It was a Sunday afternoon. Sunday footy's so good, ball dry. You can throw it around. It's great. So always used to get pretty pumped about that. But playing at Suncorp, it was the first game I played at Suncorp in the NRL. I'm pretty sure it was full. It was actually absolutely packed. So you run out onto the field. And I remember running back because they were kicking off to us, and you just look up and there's just people. Like, it's just a sea of mountain of people, and there wasn't a empty seat in the house. It was just so loud, and we only had 18 fit players going into that game in the club. Only 18 fit players, and if we win that game, we actually make the finals. We only had 18, and I remember there was Skinny Byrne was injured, actually badly injured, and played the game and played well. I think Skinny might have got player that game.
He scored a try that game, I remember, from a kick to the corner.
Yeah. So there was a lot of players injured, and I remember there were some really good memories from that season, but I remember that game specifically around we had no players left. And if we actually had won, we would have been in the finals. And like you said, if we didn't have the points deduction, we would have been there anyway, which is just a huge achievement. It was a really good year, massive achievement for the club. And Ivan, as you guys pointed out before, the 2 years before that were pretty slim pickings. And we trained our absolute arse off in that preseason, and we deserved. You don't deserve anything, but we certainly deserved to be in and around it at the end of the season. And like I said, we didn't have any players left at all, and which is a really good achievement. And yeah, for me myself, I was really proud of the season, and pretty blown away to be able to get nominated for that award, to be honest. And I mentioned before around Jared Hayne, he beat me for the grand final the year before, and then he beat me for the trophy that year as well. But yeah, massive honour to be able to be nominated and also win the award at the club function as well. It was a really good season.
Yeah. Mate, in 2007 season kicks off, and in what is an absolute rarity for our club, we get a round 1 victory against Parramatta that day. Obviously a great way to kick off the new season, especially at home.
Yeah, we were on fire that day. Yeah, we were just really crisp. I remember just being really crisp that day, and it was a good win. And again, we had great preparation, really good preseason. Had a lot of people fit that day as well, and just culminated in a really good performance to kick off the year. That was a big deal for us. We put a lot of energy into winning that first game of that year because it was spoken about around the record to kick off seasons, and we went about that game with a lot of purpose to be able to kick off the season with a win.
Yeah, mate, you form a nice halves combination with new signing Michael Witt during that season too. And you play 17 or 18 games together that season. Being able to keep the same halves combination obviously makes it easier for the team to perform.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it does. It's really important. I think the combination with Whitty and I was really good. Whitty had some good key strengths that sort of were lacking in my game. His kicking game, and he was really good tactically as well, and just a solid defender. And yeah, we got on like a house on fire with Whitty as well. I still do now. Still stay in contact. He's a good guy, and yeah, we had some fun times in that preseason and fun times throughout the year, particularly making a lot of fun of our mate George Gaddis.
George Gaddis. We have heard stories about him. There was something about him burning some stuff. Was it
sacrificial burning of players' gear? Because
that's right.
It went on for like it must have been the whole preseason. So poor old George, he's such good value, and he's probably an easy target because he just blows up. He just gets this rage, We were using his towel. I think it was like for the whole preseason, just like all of us. So it was me, Whitty, Lucky. It's just this crew, Tony Martin, crew of blokes that we would just continually do stuff to George, and we were using his towel for that period of time. So you come out of the shower and you want a nice, clean, warm towel, dry towel, and he gets out of the shower and it's wet because 5 blokes have used it. So this was building up. It was building up for a long period of time. He used to blow up, and he was interviewing people and trying to find out who it was. And I think push come to shove one day, he loses his shit, and he does no reason with George. He loses it, and that's it. So what he did was he filled up a garbage bag of boys' gear and filled it all up. Went to Ellerslie petrol station, filled it full of petrol. And then took it over to the field there at Ellerslie, the field right there. I forget what footy club it is, but took it over there. Ellerslie Eagles, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And took it over there and proceeded to light it on fire. And as we all know, petrol burns and burns really quickly. And it was raining that day, so it's just gone up. Because he videoed it. It was like this bloody terrorist attack. He videoed it and was carrying on like a pork chop. Yeah, you will never do this again, and like ripping in. And so he videoed it. It's raining, and the petrol starts, dispersing, and so does the fire. And so it started to go across like to the club room and the clubhouse there. And next minute, him and Lucky are trying to put it out, and then in the background you hear this fire brigade coming, and oh mate, it was hilarious.
Oh,
we got to get a hold of Georgie Gaddis.
Yeah, we got to get Georgie Gaddis on. Yeah, absolutely.
I think with Georgie, you might have to get him to bring a tissue because he sends to spit while he talks, so you might have to get.
Well, you're giving it to the poor Greek boy. My God.
If you get him on here, he will pace me, so I need to get in early.
Oh, yeah, get a few shots in. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Mate, round 19 against the Tigers and round 20 against the Knights, you score your only career try doubles in back-to-back weeks. And then 2 weeks later, you score your first and only career hat-trick against the Titans. Tell us about that. You must have been happy with the form you had at that point of the season.
Yeah, it was rare form. I don't know what to put it down to. Maybe I was wearing the lucky jocks there. I didn't change my game day routine on my jocks for 4 weeks during that period of time. Nah. We were pretty hot during that time. I think we flogged Newcastle. We give it to the Titans as well. we really hit a good patch of form, that's for sure. You getting that feedback?
Yeah, I'm getting that too. Oh, I'm not sure what that is.
Sounds like it's cleared up now.
Okay, we'll try and continue then. Yeah, like you said, the team had a great run of form, getting the season with 9 wins and a draw from the final 12 games. What do you remember about that period of success in 2007?
It was just probably a combination of the 2006 season going into 2007. Really, we just you get into flow. We had a really good combination. Myself and Whitty, and the combinations were clicking. We didn't have a lot of injuries during that period of time as well, and there was just a good understanding of each other's games. And like I said before, we just seemed to click. And there was a couple of games during that period where we played on a Saturday night at home, and teams didn't come prepared. I think Penrith rolled up and we beat them by 60, and we had a big win against the Rabbitohs that year as well, 66-6. So we got on a pretty big roll there, and once you get in the teams that I remember playing that was successful. Once you really find that rhythm in those teams, it's hard to stop. And we had a team that liked that as well. Like, we had some really big game players in that group of players at that period of time. And like I said, we caught fire and we couldn't be stopped really.
TK's jumped in, mate. He's giving Georgie Gaddis some support. He said he had some good fish and chips at St Heliers Bay.
Yeah, that's right.
Mate, you said earlier about your halves play that you liked. It was always important that you backed up through the middle, your big men through the middle. That season, you actually tied for the club's leading try scorer with Manu and Jerome Ropati. Was that a bit of a surprise for you, or you're backing up like a good half should? Is he up there?
Yeah, I think it's probably one thing that I didn't do as well in the NRL playing first grade. A lot of my junior career and a lot of reserve grade, I scored a lot of tries just from backing up, and that year I just made a concerted effort to be able to do that. I think you get caught up in, as a halfback, trying to get the team around the field and trying to stick to the plan and execute the strategy. And some of the things that I was good at, I kind of, you sort of lose that, or you play within yourself to be able to play as a team player. And that was something that I was proud of. But I remember Ivan challenged me that year around running the footy and backing up and getting back to some of my strengths. And off the back of that, was able to score some tries. There's some guys in that period in those teams that were good offloaders and had a lot of footy on them as well. And we had a lot of confidence around our game, and we executed it pretty well. So that just made opportunities for me, and I was lucky enough to be supporting up through the middle.
Yeah, mate. 2007 through the back end of that year, we have a really good run into the finals, and we finished fourth, and a return to finals footy for the first time in a few years. How do you remember the lead up to your first finals game against Parramatta? Because it was a big one because it was at home.
Yeah. Oh, I was pretty nervous. I'm normally nervous before the game, but it was a big deal. There was a lot of media locally. We did the blackout. Pretty sure it was a Friday night game.
Friday it was, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a big deal as well. I remember Puma were our sponsors at the time, and they were great sponsors. And I'm a bit of a boot geek, and so I love my boots. And I used to get this certain pair of boots, the half and half stud. So half metal at the back, and then just the molds at the front. And they're pretty rare, the Puma Kings. So they used to make sure they held them for me, and that was pretty special.
Nice.
Think about that. I wish I had a pair of them boots still. And what I actually did after the game, I threw them boots in the bin. But they put our names on the boots like in gold writing, and so that was a big deal. And so there was a lot of fanfare around the game, which so there should be. We had a successful season and finished fourth, but we played reasonably well. We played a finals footy style of game, high completions. We didn't play too expansive, and we set ourselves up to win the game. But poor old Logs didn't pass the ball. He dummied when the trial line was open on the left side. I don't want to blame him, but that was I still remember that. I think a lot of people remember that.
A lot of people remember it. Don't worry, mate. It's not just you.
So we put ourselves in a position to win, and it's one of them things. I hate to say it, but it felt like we were the better team on the night. We defended really well, and all you need is one of them that try to happen, and you win by 4, and that's what happens in finals footy. It's a tough game, and I think we played well enough to be able to win, and we put ourselves in a position to win. But again, we just didn't find the right pass at the right time, and that was the end of our season, really. Because after that, we went up to North Queensland, and we know what happened from there. But yeah, it was just you sort of win that game, and anything can happen from there. We play another home game after that, and we would have been unbeatable at home. So in terms of looking back and not fond memories, we had a great season, but we didn't finish that season how we wanted to, that's for sure.
Results aside, though, like 28,000 fans packed into Mount Smart for a finals game. I mean, it was still a very big night for the club, and still, the result still hurts, but it was just great, I think, to get back into finals footy and have a packed house.
Oh, it was amazing. That atmosphere was ridiculous. All totally blacked out. Running through that tunnel, as I said before, is awesome. Great game. It was a intense finals footy, tough, what you'd expect at that time of the season, and the crowd was amazing. It was a great atmosphere.
We, as you said, we lost that game only by 2 points, 12-10, and then headed to North Queensland, where we get absolutely smashed up by the Cowboys in a game at Townsville, a game where the Cowboys make us wear the black jerseys in that intense North Queensland heat. Yeah, that one. Do you remember the controversy surrounding that decision for that game?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was a big deal at the time. The other thing that they did, which Neil Henry used to do on the morning of day games, is put the sprinklers on the field. So it's that humid up there in that time of the year, and it's hot. If the ground's wet, you can feel the humidity come through the ground. So once you run out there, you can actually feel it coming off the ground. So, that tactic, and I mean that's what when you got the home field advantage. I mean that's what happens. It's naturally. So we weren't. There was a lot of talk about it, but we weren't. We did a pretty good job of not getting caught up in it. We just. We turned up. I think we scored the first 2 tries, didn't we?
We're up 12-6. Yeah. We had
had a good lead, and then we didn't complete, and then the wheels just fell apart. And when you play in Townsville in those sort of conditions, if you're not completing it 80%, then you're no chance. And we probably come out of the blocks really quickly and scored some easy tries, which in some of those things aren't necessarily a good thing, because we were confident and we were coming up against the North Queensland team that they were decimated by injury. They had sort of 9 or 10 blokes out that day. And if I reflect on preparation and we talk about the black jerseys, I actually think it was us not being prepared for a tough game, thinking that they had all these injuries out and it was going to be an easy day for us. Because we beat the Cowboys, I think, twice that year, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. We had a couple of big wins over them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we move on to 2008, and the season starts inconsistently, and we're alternating between wins and losses. But we really hit form at the back end of that season with 8 wins from the last 10. And we sneak into 8th spot with a win over Parramatta in the last round. How do you remember the 2008 regular season?
Oh, it was up and down. We started off terribly. We were getting flogged in Australia that year, and one of the key differences, which I think Ivan would hate this, but we were flying first class. We never did that before. So I don't know what it was, a decision probably made by the club or the sponsors, really, and New Zealand at the time, trying to look after us. But one of those old school mentalities where you travel first class and there's an expectation with that goes with it, and some people potentially don't have the maturity to be able to perform under those circumstances. It's like you're a warrior and expected to go out and perform like a warrior, but you're getting around in first class. It just doesn't match up. League we're working class people and from humble backgrounds, and I just think that some of the guys might have got caught up in the hype of 2007 and the expectation of 2008, and we just didn't deal with that well at all. We had a bit of a different preparation around some external leadership that the Melbourne Storm had done, the leading teams program, and I just don't think we were mature enough as a group to go through that process. And once we removed some of those structures, and we were a lot more ourselves and a bit more laid back and a bit more of a Warriors footy, and that's when our season really turned.
Yeah, that 08 season, the team all grew beards as a bit of a sign of solidarity for Ruben Wiki. He was obviously in his last season at the club. Some of the Aussie boys like Whitty really struggled to have any form of facial hair. But looking back at pictures, you did all right in the facial hair department, mate.
Mate, those pictures still haunt me to this day. Every time I've got a promotion at work or something happens at work, or something's going on, they bring up this photo going, oh, this is what it used to look like. And it just looked like this big red lumberjack with this big red beard. But they were fond memories. That was a great time. We, like you said, we were, Roos was in the back end of his career last season. Played his 300th game at Leichhardt Oval. That was unbelievable that day.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. Yeah, it was a great experience.
Quite fitting because he got to play that game against the Tigers, who were coached by Tim Sheens at the time, and Sheensy was his coach at Canberra for so long. It
was an awesome experience. We had a bit of a function the night before, just in the team room. We always used to have dinner together when we'd go away and spend a lot of time together. But that night, Ivan organised some of the former players to come in and talk. Some of Ruben's former teammates. So Laurie Daly came in, and Laurie Daly's a legend of the game. And for someone like me as a half, you sort of look up to people like that. And Laurie came in, and he sort of during that period was a commentator. So we're always very polished, and you don't get to know some of these people when they're in front of the camera or they're commentating. They're really professional. And Laurie came in and talked and talked from the heart, just really emotional, and the connection between him and Ruben. And he was in tears about Ruben as a teammate, and it was inspirational. It blew us away. It blew all the boys away. And the performance the next day reflected that. I think it was a pretty high-scoring game, but we ended up getting away with it. And we all had the beards. And again, Leichhardt Oval on a Sunday afternoon doesn't get much better than that in front of a packed crowd. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think we were paying. I'm not a gambling man by any stretch of the imagination, but I remember my cousins were there in a corporate box, and they would text me after the game going, "Oh, we got on you guys, and you're paying $12 to win." I was just like, "Wow."
We can thank Brett Hodgson for missing that kick right at the end as well.
Thank God. Thank God. Yeah, but the beards was a sore point for some of the Aussie boys. I don't know if Tatey told the truth on his part of this.
He had a little goatee, didn't he?
He was. There was someone within the playing group that was writing letters every week about the beards. The bearded master, I think he called himself. So there was letters popping in our inboxes, in our little trays everywhere. We used to have these trays in our playing area where you get mail and whatever. and we get these messages from the bearded master, and every week about threatening to boycott. I'm going to shave it off. This is bullshit. I hate it. And it was bloody Tatey, the dog.
Really?
Yeah.
He didn't mention that.
He didn't like it. He didn't like it because he had a red beard and because he's got that massive chin. He didn't like it. So there was a couple of the boys that were sort of trying to, get him shaved off. But because we had the success, we just had to keep it going.
Witties looked like you could blow it and it didn't fly off. It was shocking.
He was committed, though. He was committed. He kept it on there.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to respect that. Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Like, he's probably one of their greatest moments for Witty that gets replayed all the time now, and he's got that terrible beard, and all of us do. Like, I've got this big red thing down the sideline, and funny, good times.
Well, speaking of which, that brings us on to that iconic game, probably the most iconic game in the club's history. It's the 1st versus 8th qualifying final against Melbourne. The first time an 8th place team has ever knocked over the minor premiers. Tell us your memories of that iconic game.
Yeah, so we had a lot of success over the Melbourne Storm. We used to approach it. You have to, with a team like Melbourne, we'd go into those games. They were kind of. We would approach them as if they were bullies. They played a tough brand of football. They were renowned for putting it over teams, and they're really aggressive. And if I reflect back on when we played well, we were exactly the same. We had a really strong forward pack and guys that were feared for the opposition. So when we played well, that's how we approached our game. And so every time we played against Melbourne, Ivan really challenged us to go into that game with an aggressive mindset and dominate and not let them put it over us. And that's how we approached it, and that's how we had success against them. We bullied the bullies, and that was something that was a focus on. And I remember before that game, we made some promises, and I remember Rubes come up with this idea about when they'd run out, because they always used to run out through them banners and make this big thing, running through the banner. And I remember Ivan sort of having a go about it, and then Rube said, well, stuff them. When they run through the banner, let's all stand there right behind it, locked arms with the beards, just going, let's go. So that's what we did. That's what we did. When they ran out, we were standing there in a group, all bound together, and solidarity and showing a show of strength that we're not going to be bullied by the bullies. And that's how we approached the game. And again, really aggressive. Some things come off for us. We were really aggressive throughout that game. The defense was unreal. We didn't give up, and it was just a traditional, really, a finals footy game. And that try at the end of the game was ridiculous.
What do you remember about it?
But it was just it was a feature of our game at that time. We made a lot of effort in and around our top speed, so focused in on that speed from sort of plus 50 meters. So a lot of teams work on speed because rugby league is a short game, so you work on that explosive speed. But over that sort of 2 or 3 year period, we worked at our top speed, so sort of 50 plus, because we had guys like Manu and Wade McKinnon. These guys are really quick. Jerome, outside back. So during that period of time, we had the most tries from inside our 50 in the NRL for the 2 years, and we concentrate on that. So a lot of back five movements and spreading the ball without not high risk play, but early ball to those guys that had a lot of skill, and Manu and those guys at the time, and Wade McKinnon was the same. So it was really the same as that. Witty moved the ball to Jerome in space. Jerome's really hard to handle. Off the back of that, you got Manu, who was the fastest in the club and 110 kilos. So if you give him a little bit of space, and then Witty just backed up. It was just it was what we'd done for the last 2 years, but just really magnified at that period of time, because it was 30 seconds to go, and like you say, 8 versus first, and we go in and score the try, and Witty puts the ball up. Don't know why he did that, but
he was trying to waste time. That's what he told us. We asked him, said, "What were you doing? What were you thinking?" Yes, I was in my mind. I was trying to wind the clock down. Yeah,
4 seconds.
Oh gosh, but yeah, in terms of a plan, that was probably not perfection, but we went about our footy and how we play our best, and that's how we approached the game, and we executed it perfectly on that day.
Yeah, Whitty was saying when he was on, he spoke about Manu in that particular play, a guy 110 kilos running down the sideline at full pace and being able to send a ball into your chest,
Hit him.
Whitty right on the chest for that try to happen. He said just an amazing amount of skill for such a big man.
And that's what. So for us internally, we were really appreciative of the skill level that Manu used to display on a week-to-week basis, and he worked extremely hard at that. Extremely hard. A lot of time after training sessions, catching, passing, worked really hard on his game through that period of time. And yeah, Whitty's exactly right. You know, you think about that vision. He's gone in between a couple of blokes and actually one-handed pass, and it's sort of thread between two blokes, and Whitty's on the chest at full pace.
Yeah, I mean, Manu's career could have been anything. You know, I mean, he had that awful one night against Parramatta that time, and
one night.
But if Ivan hadn't have kept with him, like he could have been sent back to reserve grade and never been the player that we were able to see him develop into. So
yeah,
I mean, that's kudos to Ivan for having the faith in him, but Manu for the work that he put in to his own game as well to become.
He just keep turning up.
Yeah, absolutely.
He worked really hard on his fitness as well, Manu, on skin folds, and that bloke with his shirt off. Geez, yeah, he was ripped.
Shredded.
Mate, the following week we head back to Mount Smart Stadium for another of those iconic semi-final blackout games against the Roosters, a 30-13 victory that night. What do you remember about that experience of that blackout night?
Well, it was way better than the Parramatta one, that's for sure.
Way better.
And we played a hell of a lot better as well. Yeah, there was some good things. So my dad was at the Roosters at that time as the football manager. So there was a couple of times throughout that year we played the Roosters 32 all. That game 32 all where Whitty kicked the 2 field goals.
Oh, what a game that was! Yeah,
that was amazing. Yeah, that was a classic. That always features on the Fox Sports Classics.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I was lucky enough to be at that game. It was just draining at the end. You're just like, even as a spectator, you're just exhausted because it was such an epic game.
Oh, everyone was just out on their feet. It was ridiculous. Yeah. We had some really good encounters, or some good encounters throughout the year. And my dad was at the Roosters at that time, so that was pretty special to come up against the old man in a semi-final where he's at the other club, and again blackout at home. We played excellent that night. I remember Aidan Kirk, another guy that worked his ass off, and from the Roosters days, Kirky was with us at the Roosters as well, and got an opportunity through that final series, and again just played exceptionally well. He scored a great try in that game to sort of seal it, and just a really good team performance actually that game. If I think about that, and it just felt like we were never going to lose. Rubes does that run off the kickoff and runs clean over CR and knocks him out. That kind of set the tone for the game, and that was a reflection of how we were approaching our game at that time. Like I said before, we were clear on when we were at our best, and when we were at our best, we were aggressive, and we played that way. And I think that the Roosters were really surprised about our intent and our aggression at that time, and they couldn't keep up with us.
That run back from that kick return by Ruben. That features on a lot of highlight reels as well. Where were you in relation to on the field when that happened? Were you close to that, or were you on the far side of the field?
I think I was on the bench actually at that time. Yeah, I was super subbing then. I got dropped mid-season, had 3 games in Reggie's, and I came back. I think Wade got suspended and Lance was playing fullback, so I was super subbing. So I used to come off the bench and play in the halves, and Feeney would go back to hooker. So, yeah, I was on the bench because I think it was the first run of the game. Was it? Maybe?
No.
It's after a try. After the Manu try.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, I wasn't on the field. But I remember just going, wow, the whole earth has just shattered.
He was. They say that he was yelling Sparta.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that game there is forever etched in Warriors history. And you ask any Warriors fan, it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest game. Like you mentioned, we spoke about the crowd before, but that atmosphere that night. Every other guest that we've had that played in that game said it was just unreal. The atmosphere that night. And it was just, I watched it back again during the week on YouTube, and it just was really hostile. Must have been awesome to play in front of that crowd.
Oh, yeah, it was amazing. It was the key difference between that and the Parramatta game is we were having success. And again, that was a rivalry with the Roosters. You know, if you think back at some of the big games with the Warriors and the Roosters during that time, you know, there was a grand final not that long before that, and there were some big collisions there. I think Ned Caddick and Arwen as well. So there was, you know, those things really add to the environment and the atmosphere at that time. And so I'm pretty sure Willie Mason was at the Roosters then too, and he was a bit of a big mouth. Yeah. So those things add to the environment and probably the hostility of the crowd at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, mate, unreal night. Yeah, we'll never forget that one. Unfortunately, though, the next week we come up against a red-hot Manly team, and we bow out in the prelim final. But 2008, still a successful season for the club. You mentioned Wade McKinnon before. Well, his return from suspension saw a reshuffle for that game with Lance O'Hire moving back to the bench, which unfortunately meant that you missed out for that game. So it must have been a tough one to watch from the sidelines, that one.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was one of them games, like you say. You know, Manly went on and did the same thing to Melbourne the week after. They were just red hot. They were red hot. Yeah, we did make some changes. Wade come back into the team. Probably, you know, looking back, you know, I don't know if Ivan would do things differently, but you know, that combination with Lance at that time, he was playing excellent at the fullback position. But when you've got someone like Wade coming back in and his performances during that time, then it makes sense to bring him in. But I you know, we if we brought our best game on that day, I feel like Manly was still going to win. They were unstoppable during that period, like literally unstoppable. They caught fire. Everything they did, I remember just everything they did that night. It just came off. Everything they did, and you know, we could have played our best footy, and things could have come off, and they still would have beat us. So sometimes you have them games where you prepare really well, everything's going your way, and the opposition are just too good, and they were that on that night. They were phenomenal.
Yeah. Mate, that was 2008 was your final season at the Warriors. When did you make the decision to sign with the Cowboys, and how do you look back at your time wearing a Warriors jersey?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird time. So the Roosters actually were talking to me after the semi-final, and so there was a fair bit of talk about sort of going back there. I still had 2 years to run on my contract at the Warriors. You know, the club weren't showing any signs of change in direction. That's for sure. So there were some inquiries made from the Roosters during that time, and they're actually really keen. But I was settled in New Zealand. My wife was 8 months pregnant with our firstborn at that time, Lola. So we were really settled in New Zealand. So yeah, I didn't really think anything of the offer from the Roosters at that period of time. And then, you know, come to the end of the season, we always do a season review, and the players come in, and during that period of time, it's probably a decision made by the management and the coaching staff at that time. They wanted to go in a different direction, so and I was part of that, and that's just the nature of professional sport, and I really respected the way that the club handled that situation. You know, Ivan and I have maintained a solid relationship, still in contact now, and he was just really upfront and honest with me that, you know, at the end of the year, it's sort of the same process. We go in there and we do medicals, and then we sit down and do a bit of a review of our season from a personal perspective.
Yep.
And, you know, you get feedback about these are the things you did well, and this is what we want to work on. And during that conversation, you know, Ivan just came straight out and just said, look, I think it's time for you to go and learn off someone else. So, you know, Ivan at that period of time was the longest coach I've ever had in my whole career outside of my dad. So he coached me all that time at the Roosters and all that time at the Warriors, you know, probably about 120 odd games in that period of time and a lot of my senior footy. So he just sat down and said, I think it's time for you to go and learn from someone else. And, you know, I respected the honesty and the conversation at the time, but you're not prepared for it. I wasn't prepared for it at all. So it's kind of like, oh shit, does that mean we need to move? And like I said, I loved our time in Auckland. You know, our daughter was just being born. I had some good relationships. You know, Tatey and I used to live around the corner from each other. I was living next door to Stacey Jones. Like, you know, that's a bit of a childhood sort of dream as well. Jonesy's my next door neighbour, and we used to go and have beers every Tuesday afternoon, and he's just a great bloke. So, you know, all those sort of things sort of go through your mind, and it was just probably a state of shock at that period of time because I just wasn't thinking that was the position of the club, and so that conversation happened with a couple of players at that time. I think Whitty was very
Whitty
similar.
as well.
Yep.
So and again, I just have to respect the club because, you know, they had to make some decisions based on what was best for the club, and they went and did that. And you know, in the end, I didn't have anything at that period of time, and Ivan said they weren't exactly kicking us out, but it was like, if you can go find another club, then you're welcome to go and do that. So. It was a bit of a weird time. I went and had some time off, and we're talking to some clubs in that period. And it was really funny. I went over to Michael Luck's wedding, and I didn't actually have any conversations with the Cowboys at that period of time at all. But then when I got back from Lucky's wedding, I pretty much signed that week. So people were going, "Oh, what was going on over there?" And it wasn't like that at all. I literally just went over there for Lucky's wedding and then come back, and yeah, the Cowboys rang, and it made sense for me. I had a dream of playing in the NRL, but also had a dream of playing for the North Queensland Cowboys. I was a fan of the club, and I'm from the area, so when they call up and there's an opportunity to go there, I sort of jumped at it. So I did that. The Warriors were awesome during that period of time because, like I said, Lola was born in New Zealand, so we couldn't travel. So I did the first 4-week block, signed at the Cowboys, training at the Warriors.
Right.
I'm not sure if that would ever happen again or has happened before. So, yeah, I got to thank the club for that because they could have just said, "Oh, well, no." But yeah, because we had a good relationship and a good working relationship, then we just got it done. You know, I came to train and we were professional, and I had to prepare for a season. That was at an opposition club, but yeah, the club, the Warriors at that time were great during that period, and they were really supportive of our family.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they made a big deal of it. They made a big deal of. They did a bit of a function at the club there and put some highlights up, and some people came in and talked, and Lauren was there, and Lola was there as a little bub, and yeah, they did a presentation. So all those things, it was really important. I think, you know, I think about my own experience now in running a business and how you treat people, and you reflect on those times there, and it's a really good example of looking after your staff really, and looking after your players. And you know, there's no secret that they were successful during that period, and Ivan is successful moving forward because that's the type of person he is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Just back on the 2008 season, a young kid by the name of Sonny Fye debuts in round 2. What was Sonny like to play alongside?
Oh, Sonny's. I think I've probably asked the question of a lot of people, and straight away, smile comes to your face. It's a really fun bloke. We had a lot of time on Guitar Hero, Sonny and I. We used to get Guitar Hero in at the club there, and yeah, we used to get it up on the big screen in the auditorium there and play Guitar Hero for like hours, and yeah, it was good fun. He's just such a fun bloke, and yeah, his talent was obvious on the field. He was an absolute freak. He debuted outside me as a centre. He's a back rower his whole junior career, and
Yep.
you just passed him the ball and just let him go. He was so strong and powerful. In the gym, he was the strongest there. He was benching like 180 kilos as an 18-year-old. Just a absolute freak of a human being, and just a great guy to go with it. Just really humble, just like all the other boys. Really humble. Humble beginnings. Family's number one. Anything outside of that, the teammates, they put everyone else first. And Sonny was the same. He was just a really, decent young man, and unfortunately, he would have had a long career in the NRL and would have been very popular, and he would have been a leader at the club, no doubt, for a long period of time. Just a really unfortunate event, that, and just shocking.
Yeah. I was going to say in my notes, I've got that you would have been in Townsville, but just from what you said, you would have still been in New Zealand then when he had his accident and passed away.
No, I left. So I left just before they returned to the first week of training, and that's when it happened. I was at the Cow. I was at the Cowboys. My first day was that when that happened.
Yeah. How did you handle that? Like the other boys were dealing with that loss together, but having been a teammate of Sonny, and now you're over in Australia, thousands of kilometres away at North Queensland. How did you deal with that loss personally?
Oh, I don't think you deal with it at all. It just... I remember Lucky calling me. I just didn't think it was real. You just don't think it's real. It's not real. And it wasn't real for those guys, and they were there. And it wasn't real for me, and I wasn't there. It was just a really weird experience. Yeah. I don't know how those guys handled it being there, going to the beach, and just a huge amount of respect for them and for the courage shown of those guys and the support they showed for the family at that time. Like literally just going straight from training out to the beach to try and search for him.
Yeah.
Just that in itself, like that would have been daunting. Like what are you going to find when you're out there? Yeah, that's sort of the things that go through my mind, and it would have been horrific to be there. It was, like I said, a really weird experience at the time. I was, Lucky called me and was telling me what was going on, and you just don't think it's going to happen. You just think he's going to turn up.
Yeah.
That's what you think. No, he'll be fine. It's Sonny. He's so strong, and, he's unbreakable.
Steve Price spoke quite candidly about the emotions that he went through at that time. And without going into too much detail, we'll send you a link of what he said, because he got a tattoo done in honor of Sonny, and it revolves around a turtle, old turtle being found on the beach.
Yeah,
it was quite emotional when he told us, and I kind of teared up, and I still tear up a little bit now. And I didn't know Sonny, but I still tear up a little bit now when I watch that clip. But we'll send that to you privately so you can have a look at that. And, it was just a wonderful little story that Pricey shared with us when he was on here.
Yeah, Price is really close. Was close to Sonny, and it's one of Pricey's qualities that he used to grab a hold of the young guys coming through, and they had a strong relationship, and they were very close. Pricey used to do these dress up parties at his place, and I remember Sonny coming to the dress up party.
Yeah.
Was singing the Venga Bus, and mate, good times.
He told us that whole story.
Good time. So it was probably hit Pricey. Everyone was very upset, but Pricey was very close to Sonny, and I know that he was hit him pretty hard.
Yeah, it did.
Well, thanks to Johnny Cololo who donated us this jersey. Sonny Fire will always be a part of this show.
Yeah,
cool.
And, very fortunate and blessed to have this jersey with his signature and with your signature on it as well. And like I said, a huge loss for the club. He was going to have an awesome career ahead of him. And
where's Grant's signature on that, mate? Can you pick it out?
Yeah. I reckon that's your signature there, is it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's it. Yep.
Nice.
Right. Yep. Sonny and Grant. Yeah.
Yeah. No. We appreciate you sharing those thoughts, and obviously it's a very tough topic to talk about. But yeah, like every year, we honor Sonny in January, and we'll never forget him. And he's always part of the club. And,
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
As you said, you moved on to Townsville, back to the Cowboys. It must have been good, though, for you to finally get home. You touched on it before, but to finally get home and play for the club, kind of where it all started for you.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those things I remember as a 15-year-old. Started to get a little bit serious about footy. Definitely wasn't one of the more talented kids. I just worked really hard on my game and worked really hard around training and made some sacrifices. And I remember on my school hat, I drew a Cowboys jersey with a number 7 on it, and that was a bit of a milestone in terms of, this is what I'm going for, and this is what I'm visualizing doing. And for people that might have known me at that time, would have just thought that's ridiculous. I was only just playing. I think I just made my first Mackay rep team at that period of time, so I wasn't making Queensland teams or anything like that. But that was a moment for me to go, I'm going to give this a crack and put everything into it. And so to do it sort of 15 years later and go back home, I guess, go back home and be able to, put that jersey on, it definitely meant a lot to me. Outside of, my debut game, that's probably one game that's really special to me. In terms of, the debut game was very similar, a culmination and a lot of hard work. But, the Cowboys one was very similar in terms of, all of those things that you think about and the sacrifices that you make and, that real achievement or sense of achievement to be able to actually achieve what you set out to do was really special.
Interestingly, during your 2 seasons at the Cowboys, you never actually get to play against the Warriors. Do you regret not being able to have played against them, or at least return to Mount Smart going there against them?
Yeah, I bloody hated that. I don't know why King didn't pick me for them games. I used to hate that. Yeah, I did hate that. I would have loved to have gone back. I don't know why. I probably didn't play well enough the week before, to be honest. I don't know. It's to me. I'm blowing up at King here, but it's probably up to me around my performance. But yeah, I did. Regrets probably the wrong word because, but yeah, I would have loved that. Yeah, I would have really enjoyed that. It would have been great, but yeah, I didn't get the opportunity. So
yeah. During those 2 seasons, though, when you weren't playing in top grade, you'd play for the Mackay Cutters in the Queensland Cup. How did you enjoy that experience?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved being back playing for the Cutters. A bit of a footy geek, so growing up, my dad used to coach the Mackay rep teams, and my heroes growing up were people on TV like all the other people, but my heroes growing up were a lot of the local league players. Like I used to go down and watch some of these guys and model my game off them, and watch the Mackay rep teams. Mackay was very successful in the Foley Shield, very successful in the State Cup and those types of things before they went into the Queensland Cup. And I was away at the Warriors when they went into Queensland Cup, and my younger brother was playing, so we used to watch a couple of the games when we were in Aussie at the same time, and sort of had strong connections still there. So yeah, that was a cool thing to do. It was great to go back there and represent the region that I grew up in playing, and obviously I was playing NRL at that time. So, I got to play with some young guys that I sort of knew from school and go back there and play in front of the home crowd. It was very special.
Yeah, mate. At the end of the 2010 season, your Cowboys contract ends. Did you think of re-signing or looking at other options in the NRL or the Super League at that time?
Yeah, so I had an offer from Hull KR and Hull FC. At the time, Hull FC, Craig Fitzgibbon was over there, and I knew Craig from the Roosters, and we were pretty close. And Craig's an excellent guy. Was one of those senior players that kind of mentored the young blokes, and he did that for me at the Roosters. So we had a good relationship, and so we were in pretty close contact probably for the last 6 weeks of the season at the Cowboys. And it was a reasonable offer, but I just had this feeling at that time that we'd moved to New Zealand. We had a great time there. Lola was born there. My wife was doing pretty well in her career, and it just felt like time was up in terms of chasing the dream still. And I had, while I would have liked to have played 100 games and done those milestones and a couple of other things in the NRL, I just felt like it was the right time to focus on family and go back and get a career and focus on that. We weren't necessarily going to. The plan wasn't to go back to Mackay at that time. We were actually wanting to stay in Townsville, and because my wife had a good job there, and I was just looking for employment really. But so in the end, I declined the offer for the Super League, and it wasn't really a hard decision in the end. And that might sound really weird. And I don't look back and reflect on that and think, oh, I regret not doing that. I actually, where I am now and where we've come and my career outside of footy, I look back at that and just think that was a really smart, mature decision at that time. And like I said, I just felt like it was time to go and focus on the family and not try and chase the dream anymore. I was probably mentally a little bit cooked around, playing as a halfback and week to week in the NRL. There's a lot of pressure that goes with that as well. And I just was at that stage in my life where I just wanted to move on, really. And that's the honest truth. And I think that's one of the smartest decisions I've made. And, I was lucky enough to go back to Mackay and get into a business that I'm still in now that are really supportive, and I'm in it now and in a leadership role. And if I didn't make that decision, then I wouldn't be this far progressed in my career right now.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at things. But you weren't entirely lost to the game of rugby league. In 2011, you captained Mackay Cutters in the Queensland Cup. You were named in the Queensland residence side that beat New South Wales 32-6. And then in 2012, you captained the residence side. You spoke about little proud moments at the beginning when we first started talking to you there. Obviously, some proud moments for you at the back end of your career.
Yeah, and you talk about mature decisions about going back and choosing your sort of professional life and focusing on family. Well, like there's that. I didn't stop playing footy, and that was really important to me. And it was really important to me to go back and give back to where I came from, and that was the motivation there. With that, good coaches there. Anthony Seabell was our coach at the time, and he was an excellent coach. We had a stack of young juniors that were from the area that were coming through the Cutters at that time. So I was just really motivated to go back there and be successful and help them young guys come through and give back to the local community. And I was lucky enough to play in the residence, and that was awesome, and lucky enough to captain the team as well. And we had, back-to-back wins. And again, some excellent coaches. Kevy Carmichael was our coach in 2011, and Paul Green was our coach in 2012. And Greeny was great. Greeny was an excellent mentor and a really good coach, and someone that I got along well with and had a relationship outside of that. And when I was playing at the Cutters, I had a bit of a leadership role with some of the younger Cowboys coming back as well to try and help them, understand the NRL system and mentor those guys. So actually enjoyed that period of time and that leadership in and around some of those mentoring, and as well as playing a key role and still playing on the field. But yeah, they were fond memories for sure. And whenever you chuck on a Queensland jersey, it's always a proud moment. We played before the Origin team, and at that time, a lot of my mates that I grew up with were playing in that really successful era. You know, talking about David Shillington before, he's one of my good mates and still is now. So he was playing then, and guys like Sam Thaiday and JT and Cameron Smith and Billy Slater, they're all the same age as me, and we played against each other and grew up together in rep teams over a long period of time. So to be in and around in those camps, while I wasn't in the Origin team, it was still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. 2013, though, you retired from the Intrust Cup and played for the South Sharks in the Mackay A-grade competition, and you captained the side there in grand final successes in 2013 and 2014, and a grand final loss in 2015. So obviously you enjoyed getting back to the grassroots of footy.
Oh, it was bloody hard. Local footy's way harder than the NRL and harder than Q Cup. I can say that because I've done all of them. And it was tough. I say this to people. I talk about Shillo and talk to Tatey as well. And Shillo's like, oh, I want to go back and play local footy. I was like, mate, don't do it. It's tough. It's hard. Some of the guys in that competition at that time in Mackay were former NRL players. We played Moranbah in one of those grand finals, or two of the grand finals. In one of the grand finals, the Moranbah front row was Jamin Lowe and Shane Tronk.
Oh, yeah, right.
Wow.
So there were some impressive players running around that competition, and it's a lot slower in local footy, so they can grab a hold of you. And there's not so many people protecting me, so I don't have a Ruben Wiki next to me protecting me, right? So I can easily be got at, and I'm an easy target. So in saying that, I really enjoyed my time there. Again, playing at South, where I played most of my junior football, we had, I think, 13 juniors playing at the club at that time. One of my good mates that I played junior footy with since under 12s was in those teams with me as well as a front rower. And yeah, so those were fun memories and a great time. My old man was running the club at the time. He'd come back from the Roosters, so that was that family connection. And my brother came and played as well. So yeah, it was excellent times. And again, talking about giving back to sort of the local footy, and that was part of it as well, and something that I really enjoyed.
Do you find because you're an NRL player, you've got a target on your back in those local competitions, so that's what makes it harder? Because I know when I played local Penrith A grade, and first graders had come back into play the local comp, they'd have a target on their back. They're just the guys that you just want to smash. Let them know that they're back playing with in the local comp. They weren't being looked after in the NRL. Is that kind of what it is, or is it just harder footy because, as you said, you don't have a Ruben Wiki protecting, standing next to you protecting you? He's not taking you out training either and breaking two of your ribs before you play.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Yeah, naturally, when good players come back, even if they're Q Cup players, people want to prove themselves and make a point. So I think there was a bit of that as well.
Yeah, mate. You make a surprise return to the Intrust Super Cup with Mackay in 2016. It's in your blood. It's just hard to give it away, isn't it?
Geez, you blokes have done some research. Where'd you pull this from? No,
Mate,
so when I finished
it, pride ourselves on is we get all our research done properly, so that we look smarter than we really are.
It's pretty impressive.
Oh,
yeah, so at the end of South, I was asked by the Cutters to come on the board there and be on the board of directors at the Cutters. So I think that was a really good opportunity for me in my professional life outside of footy, as well as still having a toe in it. And when you get into those positions, it's really grassroots. Yeah, you're on the board of directors, but you're out there on game day and trying to help and raise money for the club. And the Cutters don't have a leagues club behind them, so it's basically fed by the local community. So yeah, I was asked to do that and got into that, and it was I really enjoyed that actually. And out of that, I end up playing. I'm probably the only board member that's ever played while being on the board of the club, because we literally were running out of players. So we got injuries throughout the year, and the coach at the time I knew him quite well, and I was supporting him and trying to help him out and coming down to training. And then he said to me, "Oh, we're getting a bit thin. You better start training." And I thought it was a joke, but with about 8 weeks to go, he said, "Yeah, you need to start training." So I started training, and yeah, it just sort of worked out. Greeny was at the Cowboys at the time and was calling, and they sort of needed a bit of guidance for some of their younger guys coming back because it wasn't the best environment with, having all these injured players and trying to get NRL players prepared for them to go up. So
Yeah.
when you sort of get those phone calls for someone like Greeny and from the club, it's hard to say no. And I'm so happy I did it. I'm really happy I did that because, like I said before, that 3 years of playing local footy was bloody tough and it was enjoyable, but it was tough.
Yeah.
And it was great to go back there and just enjoy the last 8 games of the season, playing at that level again, playing with the young guys in the NRL, and probably a little bit of, oh yeah, I've still half got it type thing at the same time, and but it was really enjoyable. I really, really enjoyed that period of time. And when you get a bit older, you're a bit mature and you can sort of get around the field and not get yourself in too much drama, and you have a bit more of an understanding of the game at that time. So I'm really happy I got that opportunity to be able to play when I was at that level and at that sort of age where I could sort of do those things. So yeah, I was really, really appreciative of the opportunity that was given to me to be able to do that.
You
I think we won 5 out of 8 actually, just quietly too.
Yeah, I think you did too.
Yeah.
You retire at the end of 2016 eventually, finally. How do you look back on your rugby league journey? Because it's one that's really unique. I don't know if you realise this or not, but you kind of went full circle. You finished where you started, and you're one of the few players that we've spoken to. The only player we've spoken to who actually finished their career and then went back and probably played longer in the local competition than they did in their NRL days. It's a wonderful story of someone giving back to their community, and one that we've really been privileged to help tell to all our listeners on our podcast and our webcast. But you must look back on your career with a lot of fond memories.
Yeah, I just feel extreme level of extreme gratitude and privilege to be able to do the things that I've done, the opportunities that I've had throughout that period, and built a successful career in a professional sense on the field. But then that's helped me off the field. So some of the things that I learned through that period of time because of the mentors and the leaders that were, in teams with me, like Pricey and Ricky Stewart and Ivan Cleary and Phil Gould and Neil Henry and Jonathan Thurston and, all those guys that you play with, that you learn off, is those things they're hard to teach. They're hard to have those experiences, and a lot of people don't get that opportunity. And I'm just so thankful that I got that opportunity, and it's definitely set myself up for after footy as well. So I just feel really privileged to be able to do that. And like you say, I was lucky enough to, as a 17-year-old, to go pretty much straight into reserve grade and stay at that level just about my whole career, and then at the end, play 3 years of local footy. It's a pretty cool journey, and like I said, I just feel really appreciative of the opportunities that have been given to me. Yeah, that's kind of, when you ask that question, I just think about that straight away. Just grateful and just appreciative, and it's been a great ride. Love it. And those relationships. The key thing is relationships, and this respect of your teammates and the players that you play with, and I still have good connections with a lot of those guys now, regularly in battle text with Tatey and Gaddis and Lucky, and I've been playing in those Legends games with Pricey and Benny Hannett and Jeremy Smith, and that's just, you go back and play those things, and I was a little bit apprehensive, but once you get in there and the boys, you're just one of the boys, and at some stage we've run into each other or we've played against each other as a story, and and there's a connection, and there's a just level of respect, and it's just that brotherhood and just that mateship that you have, regardless of how many games you played or what you've done in your career. It's just like this group of people that just have respect because you played the game of rugby league, and I love that.
Yeah, mate, you've alluded a couple of times in regards to your post rugby league career. What is it you actually do now in post rugby league?
So I work at Aon. So Aon's as a professional financial services firm and around risks. So don't get too complicated in it. Foundation is in commercial insurance broking. So, businesses come to us and we talk to them about the risk in their business and talk to them about how we can transfer that risk and set it up for their business. That's what I've been doing really. And I've been able to go through the ranks pretty quickly, and so I lead the Queensland and Northern Territory business at the moment. So we got branch locations from Northern Territory all the way through to Byron Bay, which I'm responsible for, and there's about 100 people in that and 14 locations or whatever it is. So there's a fair bit of fun and fair bit of travel in and around that as well, and something that I really enjoy. Like I said before, I certainly take all the lessons I've learnt from a lot of people over the journey in my football career, and I apply some of those things in the professional space now. Yeah. It's good.
Have you ever had the urge to get involved in coaching, or have you done a bit of coaching on the side?
Yeah, I did. I coached the Cutters under 20s and Cutters under 18s when I was on the board there, and I loved it. It was great. We had some good success. So we went to a grand final with the under 20s against Redcliffe in the inaugural under 20s competition for the Q Cup, and we got beaten. And then in the under 18s a year later, we got knocked out by North, and North won the comp the week after. So had some success around coaching, and I really enjoyed that as well. And that's probably one thing I miss about being down in Brizzy. I've been in Brizzy 3 years because of work. I don't have that natural commitment to football anymore, but my kids are getting to an age now where they're starting to play sport themselves, so we're sort of running them around, and the young fella wants to play tackle footy next year, so I'll naturally imagine that I'm going to be coaching that team.
Yep, sounds like it. And, you can always, now that you're in Brizzy, you can always head across to Redcliffe and stick your head in the door at the Warriors, mate, and give them give their halves a little bit of coaching over there if you want to.
Yeah. No, it's I think the club's in reasonable hands. I think it's a really tough period, certainly being in Australia. I just don't know how they've been able to manage that. And I really if I look back on Toddy Payton's time in the back end of the year, the previous year was really special. He got the team playing, and I think all of us are really proud of what happened during that period. Former player. There was a lot of us that were looking at the group and were really proud of what they were able to achieve. So I think the club's in good hands. It'd just be great to see him back at Mount Smart in front of the faithful. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that's important. Yeah. I'm really hopeful that the NRL support the Warriors and trying to get, I don't know if they back end a lot of games at Mount Smart, but I just kind of feel like there needs to be a conservative effort or focus in and around Auckland and getting rugby league back on the map locally there.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I know we wear blue these days, but it'll be great to have another blackout, wouldn't it?
Yeah, bloody oath.
Yeah. A magic round at Auckland would be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. Sign me up. I'll be there. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll all be there. That'd be a fantastic weekend. Okay, Grant, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions that we ask all of our guests while Hammer here scrolls through the comments section for some of our viewer questions as well. So, rapid fire questions. Who was your toughest teammate?
Rubes,
Awesome.
no doubt. Man, because he broke my ribs.
I was just going to say the ribs are testament to that.
There's a bit of a story with Rubes. So we're talking about toughest teammates. He broke out in boils on his back. We were playing the Gold Coast. He shouldn't have played, and sounds disgusting, but he had boils all over his back, and he was in excruciating pain. He made our trainer Dano like strap him up and strap him around. They were oozing. They
Ugh.
were all infected. He played like 75 minutes a game and absolutely killed it. Yeah,
tough.
ridiculous. Yeah, tough man. So, and played through numerous amounts of injuries, and he was really tough.
Jeez, boils. Ooh. Who was the best sledger that you played with or against?
Yeah, Webby was pretty good, as I mentioned before. From the fullback position, like 20 meters away, giving it to blokes. He was prolific. He used to do it every game. Him and Willie Mason used to get into each other all game.
That's what that whole Harker thing was about, wasn't it? In that test match. Yeah, it was about Brent. He was giving it back to Brent Webb, but it came across that he was not being respectful to the Harker or something like that. And I heard him say
Webby. Him and Webby used to get into it every game.
Yeah. Who was your toughest opponent?
Oh, Tony Carroll. He one day, I think I made like 35 tackles against the Broncos. So Brett Seymour, who we went to school together, we played in the halves together at our school team. He was a halfback for the Broncos and I was half for the Warriors, and he sent Tony Carroll at me all day.
Yeah.
Tunza, hey? Yeah. Who was the most professional in regards to game prep?
At the Warriors, I reckon it was Whitty.
Okay.
Yeah.
He used to polish his boots before every game. They were immaculate.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
It worked. 64 from 67 that season.
Yeah. Wasn't he only missed like 4 kicks in 2008, wasn't it?
That was it. Yeah.
He used to practice so much, boys.
Yeah,
so
he said he put in a bit of practice. Yeah,
he did. He's understated when he's saying that he put in a bit of practice. He used to practice a lot. His commitment was honourable. It was good. There was a reason behind his success. He used to practice. Yeah.
Master of his craft. Who was the best trainer?
This is a tough one. Oh, geez, yeah, it's probably an easy one actually. Jonathan Thurston was the best I've seen.
Yep.
He was unbelievable, unbelievably fit.
Yeah.
Tatey said that as well, didn't he? He said he did. He turned to training hungover and just blitzed everyone.
Freakish. He would just turn up. He could turn up after an all-nighter and blitz everyone and run up. Yeah, his Castle Hill runs. He's renowned for his Castle Hill runs. He's ridiculous up there. I don't know how he does it. He's just he's like a bloody mountain goat.
Oh, jeez. I saw Chad Townsend's vlog during the week. He's just joined the Cowboys and saw there was a bit of footage of him doing that. I was like, oh, jeez.
I think they did it twice.
Yeah.
I had to ride up it with Billy Johnson when I first came back from the Warriors, and I didn't know how to use clips on the bike, and I just kept falling off, just like falling, boom, boom. Yeah, and he just left me there. He left me. He's like, Rovelli, you're hopeless. I'm going, and just left me.
Figure it out.
Yeah, I was on Ash Graham's bike because I didn't have a bike. I got there and straight away I was like, oh, you have to go for a ride with Billy, and I was like, oh no, it's going to be this massive ride. And it was, and I didn't know how to use the clips on the cleats. And I just kept like, pull up to lights, and I just say,
So you're not a fan of bikes these days?
Oh, I learned how to use clips being at the Cowboys and training with Billy Johnson. To. Yeah.
His reputation would have preceded him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the team comedian?
Oh, probably Gaddis. Probably Gaddis because we used to just hammer him all the time.
So he gave as good as he got, really.
Yeah. He's pretty quick-witted, actually, Gaddis. And he was quite good around the pranks as well. Like we used to hammer him, but he was pretty good in retaliation, and he was pretty crafty.
Yeah, nice one. And who was the worst trainer?
Oh, there were some bad ones. Frank Paul got kicked out because he was that bad, and then he turned up at the Roosters, and he just was turned into this fitness fanatic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so Frank Paul was a kid when I was at the Warriors, and he was an awful trainer. I remember Campo just ripping into him.
Oh,
and he was terrible. He got like 8 on the beep test or something awful.
I reckon I could
And
get 8.
I was just thinking. I think I was just thinking, who is this kid? Like, what are they putting up with him for? You know, just thinking he's no good and just doesn't have the right attitude. And then like 3 or 4 years later, he's playing at the Roosters, and you know he was
Killing it.
great. He was a great player.
Frank
So I
Paul, the
think,
wrecking ball. Yeah.
yeah. So I think it was, and he was a really nice fella, Frank, as well. And it's probably a case of sometimes when you're in your own environment, you have this level of comfort, and you actually need to be taken out of that. So I think that was a good example for Frank that happened for him. Because if he had stayed there, he wouldn't have had the career he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Mate, just a couple of questions for you. Did you have? I mean, I know we spoke about the wearing the same undies for 4 weeks, so you could score 7 tries or something in 4 weeks. But did you have any pre-game rituals or any game day routines that you used to stick to?
Yeah, I did. I used to have this tiger towel that I used to take with me everywhere. I don't know where it came from.
Wasn't George Gaddis's tiger towel, was it?
Gaddis would never get anywhere near that towel. His behind would never have got anywhere near any of my towels. But yeah, I carried this towel around for 12 years, I think. I had it at school. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where it come from. It was just this, security blanket, yeah. But I was pretty. When I was playing in the NRL, I was probably like around my preparation meticulous, but even like borderline too much. Like when I got a bit older, it was just obsessive. You know, if I didn't do certain things, then I'd have a bad game, or I'd just have that in my head. And there's routines really important. And a lot of guys have probably said this. Routines is important, but you can take it too far. And I think, upon reflection as a young bloke, I think I probably took some things too far, whereas I just needed to calm down and relax. But you sort of learn that when you get older and with maturity. So, yeah, I was doing some things that just didn't make any sense. You know, sort of one boot on before the other and that type of weird shit. So. The towel was constant.
I really like that.
Yeah. The towel was constant.
Who were your rugby league heroes growing up?
I was a Bulldogs supporter because I loved Ewan McGrady because he did the chip kick. He was my first hero. Bulldogs, and then I was a Manly supporter. I mentioned Owen Cunningham before. He's a family friend of ours, so followed him in his career, went down to a couple of games or one game down at Manly. Dad took me down. And then Andrew Johns. Andrew Johns was my hero. I mentioned before about Newcastle and my first try, and that was probably a special moment as well because he was playing in that game. And I got to play against him a couple of times, and I think we had some really good success against Newcastle. So
you would have been your time at the club,
Yeah, so he was definitely one of my heroes and someone I watched a lot of. Tim Sheens was the NRL coach at the Cowboys when I first went through the system, and he used to have this massive this little room, and it was full of VCR tapes, you know, the old tapes, and on the tapes it had all the positions and combinations. So he had like a full. If you think about a bookcase, he had a full bookcase full of Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, Andrew Johns, Matty Johns, like all the really good halves of that era in VCRs. And so I used to pretend to work because I had a traineeship at the Cowboys at the club, and I actually go and sit in there all day and watch the tapes and just replay and replay and replay and replay. I watched a heap of Andrew Johns and Matty Johns, and Aaron Payne and I were the halves for the Cowboys in reserve grade, and we used to try and pretend we were Matty Johns and Andrew Johns. We didn't play like him at all.
I was going to say, who was Andrew and who was Matty?
Well, I was probably the skinnier one, so I'd be Matty, and Payne's always been pretty dumpy, so I guess he was Joey.
Chunky, yeah.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. I got to Ivan set me up with Matty Johns as a bit of a mentor when I was at the Warriors. Him and Matty are mates, and so I spent a fair bit of time with Matty and got to meet Andrew out of that, and formed a bit of a relationship. And they helped me with my game, so that was pretty cool. As well as
awesome.
Jonesy coming in there as well. Yeah, that's it's really cool. That good blokes.
If you didn't become an NRL player way back in the day, what career path do you think you would have gone into back in the early 2000s there?
Oh, I was doing an electrical apprenticeship, and that might be bizarre to people that know me because they're just thinking you're as handy as a ashtray on a motorbike, and that's true. But that's what I was doing. I had a choice between leaving school and doing the electrical apprenticeship or staying at school and getting serious about footy, and I took option A and stayed at school and got serious about footy. I didn't get serious about my education. I stayed at school and got serious about footy. How does that make any sense? Doesn't make any sense at all. But that's what happened.
Yeah, I did year 11 and 12 on footy. Who was the biggest influence on your career?
Oh, I'd have to be my dad. Yeah. He was always a coach, and memories as a young kid were at local footy on a Sunday with Dad in the dressing room, just being in the shed listening. So I've always been a student of the game for that. And just those things just come naturally to you, and I think probably strengths around leadership and coaching and those things are formed out of that. Just learning from osmosis, being in and around it, and so that was me. I used to ball boy every Sunday and go to Dad with train on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and in the sheds on a Sunday. That was my life growing up, and I look back on that with really fond memories. And Dad coached us at school as well. And then, outside of that, probably Ivan. Ivan was the other one. I sort of had him for about 6 years of my career. So those two, pretty easy.
We've got him on in 2 weeks. We'll let him know you said that.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Ivan.
Oh yeah. No, he wouldn't be surprised by that. Well, maybe he might.
Grant, we really want to thank you for coming on and chatting with us so candidly tonight. It's been entertaining. I'll say that, mate. It's some funny stories there. We really love being able to connect to our past players and give them a platform to share their stories. We do have a saying here on Roo and Hammer that those who have played for our club are forever and always, and you, mate, are forever and always Warrior 127. So thanks for coming on, mate. Appreciate it.
No, it's been cool. Thanks, guys. It's a great. I really enjoy the opportunity to come and talk, and I'm a very proud ex-Warrior player, same as the other guys. I think you would get that from everybody that's played at the club, and I absolutely love my time at the club, and I really appreciative of the opportunities it's given me.
Right, we appreciate your time. It's been an honour to chat with you and to hear your story and to share it with all our fans and supporters. So thank you so much for your time.
No worries, boys. Thank you.
One question for you, mate. Now that you're living in Brizzy, we do a bit of a fan thing around Magic Round. We have a bit of a fan get together at the Lord Alfred Hotel before the Warriors play Magic Round. We're trying to get as many as the ex-Warriors that are in Brizzy to come along to that. Would you be keen to show your face at that one, mate?
Count me in. Send me a message. I'll be there.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
we'll
mate.
get that happening.
I'm never going to say no to a beer, boys. So let's just get that there.
Absolutely, mate.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate your time tonight.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
Thanks, legends. See ya. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
How entertaining was that?
Oh, we got to get Georgie Gaddis on.
Mate.
I was always a big fan of him as a player. Yeah.
That was a great chat.
It's fantastic to hear the story. Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you get this preconceived thought in your head, and he played 3 seasons at the Warriors, and you thought, okay, well this chat might take an hour, 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we're still chatting to him. It was really good. It's really great to be able to connect to these guys, eh?
Oh, it's an honour because you remember these guys playing for the club and you're watching them go around and wear the jersey, and it's just fantastic to hear the stories and to bring the story to everyone else. And so much stuff comes out in these chats that we never knew. A lot of behind the scenes things. It's just awesome. And I just
go on.
Yeah, I just want to say we're talking about the first try that he scored in that game against Newcastle.
Yeah.
So that game was one of those seesawing games. It was a classic sort of Warriors match. And I was living in China at the time. And obviously, China, the rugby league capital of the world. All I could do was follow it on the NRL website. And I just had to keep refreshing to get the score. and we were up like 26 something. And then every time I hit refresh, the score would change and Newcastle would get closer and closer. And it was like 26-22 for about the last 20 minutes. And I'm sitting there hitting refresh every second. Because being Warriors fans, you're just waiting for that night's score to just change right at the end, and it's just one of those crazy moments. I always remember that game. I remember he played and scored in that game. So it's funny the memories that you have.
I'm appreciative of the fact that these guys acknowledge and respect the amount of research we put into it too.
Yeah, well, mate, you do a fantastic job of getting that all together, and we want to be prepared, and as our good mate Johnny said before, good research leads to better content. So, we firmly believe in that.
Absolutely. Let's get into a little bit of news before we close off for the night. A bit of sponsor news. Wendy's and Mazda have continued their sponsorship with the club. There's been a couple of little videos on social media about it, but we just wanted to acknowledge that Mazda will continue their lower back jersey sponsorship, taking their sponsorship now to 4 seasons with the club. And Wendy's will continue as a short sponsor in what will be their 12th season as a kit sponsor and their 15th season as a club sponsor. So, we thank them for their continued support of our wonderful Warriors.
Yeah, great to see these sponsors, sticking loyal, especially in these uncertain times here. So, good to have them on board again. Viliami kick out to the Dogs. This is a bit controversial, wasn't it? He signed on to play the Dogs for 2023 season. He still has a year to run on his Penrith contract. And that leaked image of him in Bulldogs gear and a bit of a Gus Gould masterclass.
My boss at work is a Panthers supporter, and he was at that Penrith fan day that they had on the weekend. And Kickow was booed relentlessly by the Penrith crowd. It's just too convenient that image got out the week before or the days before that big event. But seriously, what's he thinking to get dressed in Bulldogs garb for a photo that couldn't be released due to his Penrith commitments? Why didn't he just say no?
I know. It's probably Gus was a bit too persuasive for him or something. Who knows? But who was the bloke there's some bloke from the club leaked was responsible for the image? One of the guys.
They reckon it was on security cameras. It was a bit on security cameras, but who knows?
Interesting.
Pre-season's underway for the Warriors, mate. Up at Red, plenty of images being put on social media, which has us all salivating over the new training gear.
How good does the shirt look? I love that training shirt. Yeah.
I love there was a little interview with new signing Aaron Penne. He was supposed to commence pre-season training on the 27th of November, so in a couple of days, but turned up on the 8th and has ripped in with his new teammates, just wanting to get back in there and get to meet all his
great to see that, isn't it? How good is that? Yeah.
Saw that Lodgy and Hectic, Dallin, Torhu all back at training this week, which basically means that Sean Johnson and Jack Murchie are the only two of the current 30-man squad yet to join training. Johnson into his final days of his 2-week mandatory isolation.
Yeah.
And the Merch just started his on the weekend. So he's got 2 weeks in isolation before he'll be into the training with the Warriors.
Yeah, sweet. Look forward to that.
And the last bit of news, mate, media reports suggest that both Chanel Harris-Tavita and Wade Egan are getting contract extensions. and this has happened in the wake of Peter O'Sullivan leaving. One story broke in the New Zealand Herald, which was the CHT one, which I give more credit to because they are a sponsor of the club. The other, Wade Egan, was broken by Stuff.co.nz, who are so far off the mark sometimes it's not funny.
Yep.
But both players, it's believed, were told that a decision on their contract predicament wouldn't be made or considered until at least 5 or 6 rounds into the 2022 season. But now, in the wake of O'Sullivan leading, Craig Hodges moving into that position, the report is that they're trying to shore up their roster for the next couple of seasons. I don't know. It's no official word from the club or the players at this stage.
Nothing official has come out yet, and it's just interesting that this, I guess you could say, change of heart from the club has come about post Peter O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. They did mention Craig Hodges was perhaps the guy that they were dealing with, and and the story this morning indicated that it was just a matter of time before an offer was being made to Wade Egan. I don't know. Like, it's an interesting one because I'd hate to think, and I said this to you today, I'd hate to think that the club was doing it as like a knee-jerk reaction to Peter O'Sullivan not being there. I'd hate to think that they're just going, oh, we've lost our recruitment guy. Oh, we better start offering these guys some contracts just so they don't get poached from under our noses. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's been. I'm sure it's been more of a calculated, strategic move anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not upset at either of those two guys signing up though. Like, we've spoken in the past that CHD's been quite patient at the Warriors. He was overlooked for Adam Kieran at the beginning of the 2019 season, and then they brought in Cody. This year they brought Chad Townsend in. They brought Blake Green in. So he's kind of kept being pushed back. Now with Johnson coming there, it looks like he may get that gig at number 6, and that'd be, a good thing for him.
He probably deserves the first shot, as you said. He's patient. He's been around the traps for a while, so it'd be good to see him get the first shot.
And Wade Egan, I thought had a good season this year before he got injured. Was one of our best defenders in the middle. Was playing 80 minutes at hooker. We got young Otakolo in the contract squad now. So
I'm hoping for those guys. I'm hoping that we can have like a bit of a thunder and lightning kind of combo there. So you got Wade Egan being a solid defender starting, and then you have the dynamic, Otakolo, the running game of Otakolo coming off the bench, and they sort of like complementing each other.
Otakolo's supposed to have massive raps on him to the point that it could be the Warriors version of Harry Grant. So if true, he's got a massive future ahead of him, and someone like Wade Egan will teach him. He'll be a good foil for him in that, teaching him the game management side of things. So long as he doesn't teach him his no-look pass.
Please not. Mate, we got a couple of awesome chats to see us out for the year. So next week, Wednesday, 1st of December, we've got a chat with Mark Horo, former Warrior, played for the club in 96, 97, also played for the Eels and Western Suburbs.
Yep.
And is Kiwi international. And he's involved in, I think you said he was involved.
Multi stuff, pathways and stuff.
Pathways, yeah. So it'd be great to have a chat with him. And it's hear about, obviously hear about his career and what he's up to now. And Ivan Cleary, this will be a big one. December 8th, last show of the year. Ivan Cleary coming on to talk all things, obviously, through his distinguished career as a player and a coach, premiership-winning coach now, but obviously one of our favourite sons here at the Warriors as both player and coach.
Absolutely. Definitely excited for those. That Ivan Cleary one is going to be probably in the realms of a Steve Price chat. We've got so much to talk to him about, both, playing and coaching for the Warriors, and, his coaching career, hitting the ultimate heights this season with that premiership win. Yeah. Nigel Phillips has just popped in with a, don't know if you have said this or not, but I hear Kevin Locke on a trial and train contract. Is this true? Have not heard anything about.
I think this is just one of those posts on social media where someone said, "Oh, Kevin Locke's still looking for a gig," and they said, "Oh, why don't we give him a train trial?" I think that it just sort of took off from there. I don't think there's any substance to that. Kevin Locke has had his time at the club. Obviously, some great memories of him as a player, but he's getting on a little bit now, so he'd be into his 30s, and
absolutely,
I think that ship might have sailed.
Yeah, outside back. I mean, Craig Hodges did say we're looking for possibly 2 more outside backs to add to the contract, but I don't think he'd be one of them.
No, I don't think so.
Before we go, just a reminder, as we mentioned in the show opener, we are now on Patreon, which is a membership platform that enables our followers, that is you guys, to show your support for us and the content we produce by signing up for a monthly subscription. Patreon supports multiple tier levels to suit all budgets, and each tier level has its own rewards and benefits. But for now, we just have our basic bronze tier up and running.
Yeah, that's right. And you can head to our Patreon page to show your support and subscribe to our bronze tier, which is set at the lowest amount possible, just $3 a month, which is next to nothing. The link is there on your screen at the moment. And we also partner with Toria Screen Print to produce a range of merchandise. For us, that's it, as modelled by Mark. Yeah. And we'll be available soon. We're looking at early to mid next year at getting some of that merchandise made up. And it will be exclusive Patreon only merchandise, and that's for our silver, gold, platinum, and diamond level Patreon tiers that we'll probably be looking at releasing next year, early next year. And this exclusive Patreon merchandise won't be for sale, and it will be only available to our Patreon subscribers.
That's right. And we'd just like to thank those who have subscribed to our bronze tier Patreon program so far. And those people are Daniel Delore, Peregrine Falconer, Sean Kurzweil, the Kirch, Nick McKircher, Mary Carter, Fabian Moroa, Ciala Afamasanga, Stevie Williams, Alf Tuolave, our good mate TK Harris, Ted Clark, Inamete, Lisa Marie Bateman, Ken Wills, Nigel Phillips, and Kane Fraser. We thank you guys very, very much.
Thanks so much, guys. We can't do it without your support, and we appreciate it, each and every one of you. And don't forget, if you have missed any of our shows, you can catch up on our Facebook page. You go to the videos section, or you can go to our YouTube channel and catch up there. The easiest way to find our videos is head to our link tree, which is on your screen now, the link for our link tree there. And that has a special section where you can look at all our live guest interviews and special presentations that we've done. And on our YouTube channel, please don't forget to hit subscribe and for our YouTube channel, and you'll never miss any of our streamed content or any other videos and things that we'll put up. And yeah, it doesn't cost a thing, absolutely free. So it's a good way to support us as well.
It is. It's also free if you're a podcast fan. You can catch all our episodes on our podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, Radio Direct, iHeartRadio. Make sure you subscribe to us there. We upload episodes so they're ready to listen to every Thursday morning. So this episode from tonight will be there probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, which will be when I'm on my way to work, unfortunately. Please head to our Roo and Hammer Instagram page too, where we upload daily content for all our followers to keep them informed of our upcoming events, Warriors news, player movements, and all other Warriors-related content.
Yeah, well, mate, that's it for another show. We like to say another thanks to Warrior number 127, Grant Rovelli, for giving up his time and coming on to have a chat with us. We really enjoyed that. Hope all you guys enjoyed it, watching on Facebook, YouTube, and listening through podcast. And thanks so much to everyone for your continued support for Roo and Hammer. It is greatly appreciated by us. We can't do it without you guys.
Absolutely, it is. It was another great episode. As Rob said, thanks to Grant Rovelli for coming on and having a chat with us. Thank you to everyone that tunes in and watches us. Thank you to you, mate, for joining me tonight. And just a quick shout out again to my good mate Juan Carlos, who's who's in the hospital there and did tune in tonight to watch us. We love you, mate, and hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, get well soon, mate. Yeah, take it easy.
Go the Warriors.
Cheers.